Starting. Let's see if it works this time. I just tried this a minute ago. Oh, live stream health red, that's fun. Need to change the video resolution, which is not supported for this configuration. Okay, it's still playing though, so we'll see how that pans out. Also, I have noise cancelling headphones on, so my voice sounds a little weird to me. Hopefully I'm speaking at a normal volume. Well, good morning, folks. It is I, your Lord and Saviour, Jumble the Flumbletangs. That's what I call myself of a morning. Found out last night that, quite late last night, that I will not be needed at work today. That sounds really dire. I wasn't fired. Just there's not that many staff needed in today, so I'm a bit bored. Normally, of a morning, I would have my breakfast and drink some coffee and watch bad YouTube videos and make fun of them. That's something I'm going to do now, but I thought it would be interesting to see if anybody out there would like to share that experience with me. I imagine most people are probably at work. I would normally be at work now, or just be arriving at work. So I'll do something I would normally do on a day off. I'm probably going to head to the gym fairly soon, but if anybody would like to share in the experience of making fun of bad videos on YouTube with me, that's certainly something I think we could enjoy together. Alright. Okay, so as you can already see, the first one I have queued up is Ralph the Movie Maker's fucking terrible Joker review. Now, I've only seen it once, and I didn't get a chance to properly break it down, but I was shocked by just how awful it was. At first, I thought it was a parody video. You know, he was trying to be funny, but then I learned about some of the wider context of it and about how his idiot friends on that shitty podcast he's on made fun of him for liking Joker. So yeah, we'll see. We're going to dive in. I say I've seen it once before, hence my dislike there. We're going to dive in and see what we can see. Alright. Tell me if you can hear it alright.
So, you know I don't like to be serious, but we lost a legend, and it's very sad. In 2016, universally acclaimed actor Jared Leto took on the role of the Joker, and he gave one of the most memorable performances of all time.
See, this stuff is funny, you know. So right away, obviously, he's joking around. You know, it's a bit, and it's funny, you know. So I'm not laughing now because I've seen it before. First time I watched it, I thought, haha, this is really funny. I thought, so you can understand immediately why. You know, you can understand immediately why my assumption was that the video was going to be a parody from this.
We're gonna miss you, Jared. I have a very cynical opinion of Joker.
And he does like the drunk voice as well, which is kind of it's sort of internet code for I don't really mean what I'm saying. So yeah, it's weird. So does anyone think this video is a parody before we continue? Because I was on the fence the first time I saw it until near the end, and I kind of concluded, no, I think this is real. But are the people like me who saw this video and were bothered by how stupid and terrible it was and how the critiques didn't make any sense, are we just being trolled? That, you know, but by somebody who normally is really good at analysing film. So I think that Ralph the Movie Maker is very good at film analysis, which is another reason this video feels bizarre to me. Because, I mean, you'll see, if you haven't seen it before, we'll see as we go on, there's a lot of weird straw man arguments in there. He's constantly arguing. It's kind of like watching The Young Turks, but it's a movie review. He'll, like, construct a straw man and then beat it in an argument, as if that proves some kind of point.
It's so cynical, and you can tell I'm annoyed that I have to watch the movie. You guys could kind of
Is the audio balance okay, by the way? Can you hear Ralph as well as me?
tell with the Aquaman video.
Oh, they're really running out of ideas, aren't they?
But you can really tell with the Joker one. That was added in post. That looks like CGI. Come on, that looks like CGI. Was that even necessary?
What a bizarre thing to be bothered by. Like, this is coming from me, somebody who kind of makes, makes a thing out of making fun of every small detail. But that's like cinema sins. It's just like, the glass breaks. It doesn't look like he hit his head very hard. So maybe the glass wouldn't have broken. Try to imagine this scene where Arthur hits his head on the glass and nothing happens. Like, imagine how dramatic it would be if he just bonks and his head kind of bounced back because he hurt himself. I don't think that would be very dramatic. Oh yeah, my spacebar is weird, right? Brand new keyboard. I press my spacebar. It's like sticky, and I hold it down. And I think that's why cutscenes kept skipping on some of the games I have. I'm gonna have to try and get into my settings and fix it. It's a new keyboard. There's not like a fucking Cheeto dust in it yet. It hasn't had time to get any of my semen in there, so I don't know why it's so sticky.
It would have been better if it just didn't do that. People
No, it wouldn't. It would be significantly worse.
defensive about it because it's a comic book movie. I wish this movie was about incels. At least it wouldn't be so.
That's another reason I thought this was like a joke, because it just cuts around in that kind of JonTron-esque way where he's like in the middle of a word and it just cuts to the next bit.
Boring. At least then I could have related to the film. It's such a shame no one can give their honest opinion of this movie without having a bunch of children on the internet gang up on you and like people like her.
Oh, go fuck yourself, Ralph. Like, you can't give your honest opinion. Like, what if your honest opinion is just, I really liked this film because it was well made and the acting was fucking top notch and the story was well told, and by the end I was still thinking about the movie some hours later and talking about it with the people I saw it with, and I wanted to go and see it again? What if that's your honest opinion? So the only people who are honest about this film are people who don't like it, and everybody who criticizes takes like yours is also children. Okay, this is a good argument.
Harass me about these DC movies. I'm harassed about my opinions on them, so I don't want to even discuss it. But at the same time, I recorded all this audio about Joker, because it's like a commentary track. I didn't expect Robert De Niro to get shot in the fucking head. It's like, yeah, I did. Of course I did.
It's not a twist, Ralph. It's sorry guys, I'm going to be doing this every fucking 10 seconds, but every point he makes is idiotic. Excuse me, I haven't planned this, so I'm just kind of rambling. But like, that's not a twist to the movie. And there are two ways you can look at that. One, I'm going to go with everyone in the chat because there's only a few of you here have probably seen Joker. There are going to be spoilers in this review and in my reaction. But it's not a twist thing. He spends most of the movie, one, pretending he's going to shoot himself, or planning at least to shoot himself, and then he makes a last-minute decision to kill Murray. So you could argue that it was a surprise, at least to some people. I certainly felt a visceral shock when it happened, and I actually burst out laughing, which as a few people in the cinema did as well, because it was a funny moment, in spite of how violent it was. But it's a consequence. That's the thing. This moment of violence is a consequence. It's not a solution. It doesn't... it doesn't make the world a better place. It's a consequence of the actions. I don't see how you're meant to go into this movie, or why you as a viewer feel that you're smarter than the film because you knew he was going to shoot Murray. Like, I don't know. I don't get what argument he's trying to make. If somebody could explain it to me.
What's gonna happen with him? Oh, were they gonna talk it out? Oh yeah, Joker, let's talk it out. That's what you wanted to happen, right? No, it's an obvious, cheap ending. He fucking shoots fuck.
Okay, and let's actually read these because they flash on the screen so quickly, don't they? One-dimensional characters. Every character aside from Arthur only serves to enforce the message that society is bad. They don't have any qualities of their own. The only two likable people Arthur knows are a woman of colour and a dwarf. Great writing. Okay, so this is another thing that makes me feel that this is parody. That he's... It feels like Ralph's trying to have his cake and eat it because he's trying to lean on... Well, this review's just a joke. It's a parody. Even though everything else on his channel is a review, if that makes sense. Well, not everything, but every other video like this is a proper review. But it's like, well, if I put some stupid jokes in it, I can say it's not a real thing. I can say it's just a joke. Because here, he's clearly making fun of people who constantly bemoan political correctness. Those YouTubers, guys like Geeks and Gamers, who make 10 videos about Brie Larson in a day. He's making fun of those kind of people here. But it just makes himself sound like an idiot. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing to put up.
Todd Phillips has always been a comedy director, and some some of the character writing and scenarios in this film feel so simplistic, it's like out of a comedy.
Comedies are simplistic, all of them. Just blanket right across the board. There are no comedies that are intelligent or with well-drawn characters. Fucking Armando Iannucci, who's that? Doesn't exist. Chris Morris, these people don't write.
Joker is in the subway, and three guys are there, and they're bullying a lady, and then the guys bully him. They hit him with the sign. They beat him up. All these bad things happen to him all at once. The king of comedy is far more subtle than how it portrays
Yes, the king of comedy, the absolute masterclass in subtlety.
a character like this.
King of comedy.
Rupert Pumpkin is a guy raised by television. He's only used to watching artificial human behavior on talk shows.
Change of subject, really, from making fun of Ralph the Movie Maker, but movie meme maker. Until I haven't been awake all that long. This is my first cup of coffee. Can I just take a moment to talk about how much I love The King of Comedy and how you should watch it if you haven't? And while it is different enough from Joker that you will get a very different experience watching it. If I would say if you liked Joker but you haven't seen King of Comedy, you should check out King of Comedy. It's really good.
He doesn't actually interact with human beings because he doesn't have friends. It works out for him with Rita, and you understand why she likes him.
You don't understand what a shot on Langford means. That's coast-to-coast national TV, a bigger audience than the greatest comedians used to play to in a whole lifetime.
All of this was more believable and interesting than what they do in this movie.
Can we watch a good YouTuber instead? Unfortunately, no. I think I'm the only one streaming this time of the morning. My apologies. Perhaps Deadwing will come on later, and he'll do a stream somewhere on his channel.
Which she's basically just added in because there's literally no other female characters in the movie that are interesting or fleshed out in any way. There's the Joker's mother, which is basically an exact copy of the relationship he has with his mother in You Were Never Really Here.
Fucking what? I didn't even notice this the first time I watched.
They add in this whole, like, Bruce Wayne was your adopted father thing.
Fucking...
So she walked...
No? That's just false information. If you've seen You Were Never Really Here, his mum's in it for all of about 5 minutes, whereas Arthur's mum is one of the main characters and has a lot to do in the plot and is a driving force in the plot. And, you know, you can argue is a character. She's not, you know, as much... Yes, she's a plot device as everyone is because it's a character study of Arthur and everyone else is secondary. But she still has a lot of personality. I could describe the mum in Joker. I could not describe the mum in You Were Never Really Here. Fuck. I just wonder if he watches the films he makes fun of.
And she's, oh my god, it's the guy from next door. And right there, it's obvious what happened. Oh, he imagined the relationship with her. I guess that makes sense because he's a weirdo. But then, because this movie is made for the 14-year-olds who thought Batman vs. Superman was a and then...
Remember, like, at the beginning of the review, 3 minutes ago for people just watching the review, about 8 minutes ago for us, he said about how you can't go on the internet and talk about this movie without getting harassed by a bunch of children. And, you know, oh, people gang up on you and people harass me for my opinion. And I was just like, if you like Joker, you're a fucking stupid 14-year-old whose favorite movie is Batman v Superman. Again, I'm still not convinced this isn't parody.
As the people who like Batman vs. Superman, we need to cut to flashbacks that show that she wasn't actually there and spell it out to the audience.
Like, how long does that scene take, though? Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, most audience members have already figured out, and again, I don't think it's a big reveal as such. Most audience members have already figured out that the girl isn't really with him. The moment I figured it out was when she was talking about the guy, she was talking about Arthur, she was talking about the clown who killed those guys in the subway, and she said, I think that guy's a hero. That's when it was very clear to me, okay, this is Arthur rationalizing in his own head. This girl isn't there, you know. Either she doesn't exist, or you know, he imagined the whole relationship after he met her, you know, in the elevator or wherever it was. So I figured that out quite early on. But again, it's not like you were saying earlier about the shooting of Murray. It's not like it's some huge twist that changes the movie. It's just a confirmation of something you were thinking about earlier. You go, oh yeah, and it's like, yeah, they show some clips of him. Well, yeah, what's wrong with that though? It goes on for what, 10 seconds? This little montage. Little quick montage of him being on his own, not talking to anyone, stuff like that. Like that scene in Fight Club, it does the exact same thing. The same fucking scene in Fight Club where you see him punching himself in the face and arguing with himself and talking to an empty phone and stuff like that. And you think, well, why was that okay? Yeah, I'm not saying that Ralph loves Fight Club. I haven't actually heard his take on Fight Club, but it just seems like I don't recall anyone. Again, I'm not putting words into Ralph's mouth here, but I don't recall anyone criticizing Fight Club for that exact same thing. And there are probably tons of other movies, good movies that do it too, that I can't think of off the top of my head because, you know, it's 10:30 and I'm only on one cup of coffee so far.
Oh my god, the acting is so bad.
How is the acting bad?
Like, what are these cartoon characters?
No, Ralph, they're drunks. Have you been on a subway train at night? What's cartoonish about it? Like, really, there's a guy in fucking clown makeup, and the most cartoonish thing to you is the drunks on the train acting like drunks and saying stupid, inappropriate, sexist things. Like, have you seen those fucking like mobile phone videos of like just open fucking racists on the tube? Like, you think people wouldn't behave like this?
What's the thing with the tone of this film? Is it trying to be realistic? It feels like it's set in like some grand kind of DCEU, but if you're trying to...
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. At all. Look at this shot. What's great is he says this feels like it's set in some kind of grand DCEU. And the shot he chooses is obviously shot on location. This looks like New York. I don't know much about American cities, but I recognize some of this iconography, the bridge and everything. I think that's New York. If I'm mistaken, I do apologize. Again, I've never been to the States. But this is obviously shot on location with extras and everything. And the DCEU, in fact, there's a great image right here of Batman v Superman that we can see in the corner here. That's all very cartoonish. And, you know, even the rain looks like it's probably rendered in the computer. If you've watched Justice League, and I don't know why you would, unless you were watching it the way I did with alcohol and you know, to make fun of it. There's so much CGI in Gotham City in those films. It looks like Gotham City was created on a computer, which of course it was. But he's gone, this feels like it's some part of some big DCEU and shows a very low key shot in natural light of the main character on location. It's an odd editing choice from Ralph, definitely.
Make a real film, like an art film, then throwing in these connections to like Bruce Wayne's parents and having these cartoonish characters.
Now, there is one thing I remember from my first viewing of this review, because I say I have watched it once before. Keep in mind that image of Arthur sticking his hands in Bruce Wayne's mouth, because it's important for the one point I really remembered from this video, which comes up later.
Say dumb dialogue like.
What's dumb about that dialogue? That's a thing people say. Like, another thing that's pissing me off as well about this review, also 420, haha. Another thing that pisses me off about this review is that he's not offering any solutions. So often, that's what's good about people like Ralph, and in a lot of Ralph's videos, is he will make a point and go, this is really bad dialogue. Why don't you just have him say this? He's not doing that here. He's not offering an alternative. Like, what would you have? These guys, they're getting drunk. If you've ever seen a drunk, if you've ever been drunk, if you've ever left your house, Ralph, you would know. Excuse me, that's a disgusting noise. I apologize. You would know that when people are in that state of drunkenness, especially if they're kind of dickheads anyway, and they're harassing a woman on the subway, their emotions are going to be up and down. They're going to be very volatile. They're going to be quite reactive to negative stimuli. So you're laughing at their behavior, as far as they can tell. And they say, is something funny, asshole? Like, what would you say? If you're drunk and you're a bit aggy, you're pissed off, someone's laughing at you. What would you say? So that's literally what I'd say. Or, again, I'm not saying I'd be in this situation where I'd be drunkenly harassing someone, but, for the sake of argument, you might catch yourself saying something like, what the fuck are you laughing at? Or, is something funny, asshole? It's a weird thing for me to get hung up about, but what a strange choice to talk about bad dialogue. Just a perfectly normal phrase.
It takes me out of the movie completely. It's not realistic.
How is it not? It's a thing people say.
This stuff, like, you gotta be more subtle. And the new thing to
Yeah, subtle like King of Comedy.
someone gives an opinion you don't is to say, oh, well, Ralph the movie maker, he has a bad take. His take, it's just a bad take.
It is a bad take, Ralph, and you pointing out the fact that people are going to call you on that doesn't... It's not a shield from criticism. That's what I don't get. Like, you can't just be self-aware and then be like, well, you know, people on the internet are just going to say, I have a bad take. And then I come out and say he's got a bad take. And then Ralph goes, see what I mean? People are just saying I've got a bad... That's not how that works. Just because you fucking mentioned it doesn't stop it being a bad take. It's like, we were reading a creepypasta on the show. I think it was on a live stream, actually. And one of the lines, in it, somebody said something like, it was like a moment in a bad internet horror story or something like that. And I remember getting really arsy about it because I was like, yes, it is. So change it. You know, just because you draw attention to something doesn't, and you're self-aware about it, doesn't mean that suddenly... That's why I hate these movies that are, like Sharknado, that are deliberately bad. I'm like, well, it's still bad, though, just because you made it bad on purpose. And then so him saying, yeah, well, you know, people are just going to say I've got a bad take. I'm like, well, it's because you do. You have a bad take, and you not being able to defend your position doesn't help. You just going, well, you know, everyone says I've got a bad take. That doesn't help your lack of ability to defend your stupid arguments.
You want to delve into the metaphors and allegories of Parasite?
Do that then.
Joker corny. Meanwhile, you watch Mr. Robot.
Fucking do that. Like, I don't want to talk about Joker. I want to talk about Parasite. Talk about Parasite then. Who the fuck put a gun to your head and made you make this video?
Is way cornier.
And again, it's another one of those things where, you know, we talked earlier on about how sometimes this video feels like a parody because that's such a stupid YouTuber thing. That's like that is a fucking nostalgia critic line, you know, to be like, oh, I didn't want to make this review, you know, I can't believe I have to talk about this film, and meanwhile the entire audience is like, you fucking don't.
You know, Mr. Robot has like dimensional characters in it. That psychiatrist character, Krista, in Mr. Robot, she actually like does things in the...
That is a completely fair comparison to say that, oh, the psychiatrist in a 2-hour film doesn't do anywhere near as much as the psychiatrist character in a fucking sprawling multi-season television show. I wonder why that is. You know, I've always wondered that, why, oh, Agent Cooper has so little to do in the Twin Peaks movie compared to the fucking show. I'm like, yeah, because it's a 3 fucking season show versus a 2-hour movie. Fucking ridiculous. Stupid non-argument.
She has a life outside of our main character's story. She has a personality. In this movie, what does the psychiatrist character do? Oh, she just regurgitates what the themes of the movie are.
They don't give a shit about people like you, Arthur. And they really don't give a shit about people like me either.
Society doesn't care about you. Society doesn't care about me. Blah, 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 blah. If every character was just an asshole for no reason, then I wouldn't watch the show. Oh, Ralph, you just don't get it.
TV shows and films are not the same thing. They are 2 different mediums. They're not the same thing, Ralph. Why don't you get that? Listen to this. Who's saying that? Who's this person he's having a go at? Who's this made? This is what... Do you know at the beginning of the video, I know some of you guys have only just got here. At the beginning, I said, Ralph does this weird thing where he builds a straw man and then argues against it. And it's like, if you've ever watched The Young Turks, it's exactly like that, but a movie review. They'll always say like, well, Republicans are saying, and then they'll make up some ridiculous point no one's saying, and then tear that straw man down and be like, right? You know, that's this video.
That's like the go-to textbook fan theory when a movie's over. It's like, Joker had dreamlike logic, even though every movie has dreamlike logic.
What a stupid thing to say. Right, this is the bit I remembered from before that I really wanted to tell you guys about. This is the bit I really wanted to tell you guys about. Apparently, I didn't pause it. Apparently, I don't know what that means. Remember earlier on in this is the thing. This is the bit. I think this is the bit. It's going to be around here somewhere. That made me want to like do a stream about this fucking video, because earlier on when I said that they showed that shot of Arthur with his fingers in Bruce Wayne's mouth, check this shit out.
Who's just a cartoonish dickhead, punches Joker in the face. Jerry Langford was way more.
Okay, he hasn't got to it yet, but Thomas Wayne, who's a cartoonish dickhead, punches Arthur in the face. Now, we should point out, this is the first time they've met, and this is after Joker, or Arthur, went to Thomas Wayne's house without invitation, harassed his son, stuck his fucking fingers in his mouth, and then strangled Alfred. And you know, may have strangled him to death if little tiny Bruce hadn't been there. And his reaction, he doesn't just punch him off the bat either. Excuse the pun. They're talking, and he's getting quite aggressive with him when he realizes who he is. And he's like, you know, you need to leave my family alone and all this shit. And because of his, they get angry and then they start arguing. And because of his condition, Joker starts laughing. You know, Arthur, he's laughing uncontrollably, which is a thing they established earlier in the film. It's pathological laughter. It's a real thing. And he's like, it's something, you know, you think this is funny and all this, and he's already put his hands on his child, and it's only then that he's laughing at him that he punches him, and it's just so fucking disingenuous the way Ralph presents it here. It's ridiculous.
Or realistic in how he dealt with Rupert.
It's different circumstances. Imagine this scene, right? If Jerry, throughout the scene, found out that De Niro's character had harassed his family.
A little short on cash, but if you don't mind just appetizers, I'd love to take you to dinner sometime.
Well, I got some people waiting for me. I really don't know what my schedule is. Maybe we can.
Okay. Take it. Go ahead. Take it. Consider it a gift. It'll work for you.
I will.
Not that you need the help. Jerry, seriously, you ever want lunch? My treat.
Call my office.
Okay. Jerry, you're a prince.
Yeah, I would physically assault some poor man as he talked to my son through an iron gate.
Show the clip you showed earlier, Ralph. Show the clip you showed earlier of him with his fucking hands in the child's mouth when you make that argument. Idiot.
Joker's other supposed father figure, which is Robert De Niro, and the only way this ending is able to happen is through this completely unrealistic set of circumstances. So Robert De Niro has a bit on his show where he's watching the Joker's stand-up.
You can say that again, pal.
Robert De Niro starred in both Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. The film wears its influences on its sleeve, and then he gets a
Why say that? What does that prove? What point are you making?
phone call that tells him to come
You're bloating your fucking 25-minute video with just statements now.
on Robert De Niro's show because he wants him to talk to him on the couch. And of course, this same guy also happens to be famous for killing the 3 people on the subway, which, even though it's a random killing, has become a beacon for this movement to take out the richer class. And of course, this comes up on the show. Wow, I'm glad that all worked out.
You think that killing those guys is funny?
What's great is no matter how much Ralph tries to present this film as being a bad movie, every time he plays a clip, I'm just remembering how much I love Joker. it's so so ineffective. Like it's. I mean, I don't know if he's trying to be persuasive at all. He certainly isn't persuasive. But every time he shows a clip, he'll make just a shitty argument that makes no sense. And then he'll show a clip of Joker, and I'm like, fuck, I love that movie.
A coincidence. I guess it's some of that dreamlike logic, right? They would just invite this random guy on there to talk on the couch and not check him for weapons.
Your son's been hit by a drunk driver. He's dead.
No, you cannot.
I love the trombone guy. I think that's brilliant. Like, that's such a funny moment. Again, why play bits that are really good when you're trying to slag the movie off? It seems counterproductive.
A joke about that.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Oh, Ralph, you just don't get it. The whole ending was just a dream.
Literally, who are you talking to? Oh, Ralph, you just don't... Who is this fucking straw man you're arguing with, Ralph? Who is this person? Like, you're responding to criticisms you haven't even received yet. And you probably weren't going to receive, because people in the comments of this video have actual insightful things to say.
Every character in the movie is just an asshole and a liar and ignores Joker, deceives Joker, steers Joker.
See, I don't think Thomas... Right, hear me out. I don't think Thomas Wayne is an asshole. I see him as an asshole from the protagonist's perspective. This is a very subjective film. It's told through Arthur's perspective. But I don't see Thomas Wayne as an asshole. I see him as out of touch. He's an out of touch rich man. You know, he's very much kind of. I know this is this is kind of. I think this. I don't know much about American politics. I think this is before. Is this before Reagan? But it's that kind of attitude, the very sort of, looking down on the working class kind of attitude. That we see in a lot of politicians today, particularly left-wing politicians today, which I think is the irony, because this guy is more right-wing, I suppose. But he's kind of, or he's not. Again, I don't want to get political. He's not unlike Trump in that sort of, very out of touch, small loan of $1 million kind of way. He can't really relate to the working class. So he sees them and demonizes them, dehumanizes them, calls them clowns on television. But I think he sees himself as, a philanthropist. Thomas Wayne, famously has got kind of hiring people, trying to run a good business, providing people with jobs. I don't think he sees himself as an asshole. I don't think he is an asshole. I just think he's out of touch. He doesn't mesh in the world that Arthur lives in. So I don't see him as a, I don't see him as a good. I don't see him as a total asshole. I see him as a guy who, like most of the people in this film, like Arthur, is very misguided.
Down the wrong path, because it has to reinforce this message that society is bad. Society is bad. Yep, the movie had a huge budget. You can tell.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't, Ralph. Why? Where do you get your figures from? I know to guys like us, because I know he's an independent filmmaker as well, and he's made more films than I have, and I'm not going to disrespect him as a filmmaker, but to guys like us, Ralph, the kind of budget this film had is a lot of money. But I'd like to remind you, this is a DC fucking comics movie by Warner Brothers. They did not pump a lot of money into this film. Like, they don't... This is what, again, it's such a non-argument, like, these scenes that are meant to extend the universe. They aren't meant to extend shit. Everyone knows who Bruce Wayne is. Everyone knows who Thomas Wayne is. Everyone knows who Alfred is. These scenes help the story. They don't bog it down. We understand Joker a lot more through other people's, we see other people's reactions to him. They don't understand him. They don't understand Arthur, and we see how he becomes confused by the world around him. And characters who are big, important people, like Thomas Wayne, I think are good to have in the plot. And also, when you're making a Joker movie, there's another thing. There's another reason why I think the Thomas Wayne stuff, Bruce Wayne stuff, is good in the movie. And I don't think it's there to be like, we've got to extend the universe so we can tie this into some Batman movies. Because let's be honest, this is not going to be tied into any Batman movies. This is a very much its own thing. Not that I would mind if it was tied into other Batman movies, but I just don't see it happening. This is an anti-Batman movie in many ways. This is, Bruce Wayne. You think of most Batman movies. We see Thomas Wayne as this philanthropic guy, he's who died before his time, who was a good man, and his son inherits all this money and becomes a superhero, beating up the underbelly of Gotham's society, in which we all live, because it's a Joker review. You can't say the word society, apparently. Joker is the antithesis of that. If you want to make a movie about Batman's greatest enemy, and I like that they don't put Batman, Bruce Wayne's in the movie, they don't put Batman in the movie, and I think that's cool. You want to make a movie about that character, it has to be an anti-Batman movie. So you see Thomas Wayne as somebody who doesn't understand the people that he supposedly wants to help, and that he dehumanizes, and that instead of the horror of the death of the Wayne family, it's almost cathartic in the film. It's almost a celebration of revolution and of the working class, and so you see the rich, family money in a character like Batman. And in somebody like Joker, in this version of Joker at least, it's the antithesis of that. He comes from nothing. So I think the stuff with the Waynes is important to the film and improves it, makes it better. Now, I know this is just a difference of opinion, but I think it's a weird argument to make that it just having stuff that ties it into Batman bogs it down, because I honestly couldn't disagree more.
Are active in the stories. It's Rupert's and Travis's character and actions that cause them to spiral. Joker gets beat up a lot. It's not your fault your life sucks. It's the fault of society. Everyone around you is just a jerk and beats you up. So the solution...
Okay, boys, do you want to talk about this not being a solution? He just said the solution is to shoot this guy. The film never presents that as a solution. We talked about that earlier. But we are hitting fucking nostalgic critic the wall levels of missing the point now. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, Joker has many redeeming qualities. Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor and he saves the film. The cinematography is decent. So, now we're going to probably talk about how the film's actually quite good, even though we've just spent the better part of 10 minutes slagging it off and calling the people who like it 14-year-olds and petulant children. Okay. All right, Ralph.
It wears its influences on its sleeve. It's not really subtle at all. That doesn't mean it doesn't have good elements, because it certainly does. Joaquin Phoenix's performance is terrific. It was a nice change of pace to see a superhero film that looked like a real movie. Wasn't infested with CGI. The light...
Weren't you just complaining, but earlier on complaining about CGI in this movie? Which I don't even think was CGI, by the way. It doesn't look like CGI to me. I'm pretty sure they just use sugar glass because it's cheaper.
Wasn't all flat and boring. I just overall think it's pretty mediocre. And I really wanted to delve into the themes and explore this film a bit, because maybe there's something more to it, but I honestly am just not even interested, because
so don't make the video.
Like the movie that much, and it comes from a place that I think is a bit artistically bankrupt. It's not a Jonathan Glazer film. It's not something I actually want to explore. It's a by-the-numbers copycat studio movie. The Warner Brothers in the past has just been trying to copy Marvel. Okay, let's copy Scorsese character studies from the 1970s and 80s.
So let's read another one of these weird title cards. The film is an original corporate product. The film is an original corporate product. Oh, don't capitalize the I on is. It looks weird. Or an an, for that matter. All right. Studios will only greenlight comic book movies now. That's not true. Joker is an attempt to make an adult superhero drama, but it does not stand on its own as a drama. If Batman Joker brand was not attached to the film, it wouldn't have been successful and most likely wouldn't have even been made. It's made to pander. Okay, so there are some points here that make sense and some that don't. Studios will only greenlight comic movies. That's not true, but it is true that studios are more likely to take, to take less risks, because of course it's a money-making thing. So they will greenlight things that are based on existing properties. That is true. If the Batman Joker brand was not attached to the film, it wouldn't have been successful and most likely wouldn't have been made. Now, I don't agree that it wouldn't have been successful. I just don't think it would have been as successful. I think this is a good movie, and it doesn't need a huge budget either. So long as they had the budget for the nice, camera and everything they shot it on, and the budget to pay Joaquin Phoenix and all of that, they could have shot this on. I mean, it's not a very big budget film, and they could have shot it on a slightly lower budget without, the sort of DC license stuff in it. And I think it still would have been decent. If imagine a reality where Batman is not a story. The Joker was never invented as a character, and this was entirely Todd Phillips' own idea to have a guy who becomes sort of crazy clown man. I think it would still be a really good movie. The one that confuses me is it's made to pander to teenagers. What, the teenagers that aren't allowed to watch it? Isn't this movie R-rated in the States? It's rated 15 here in the UK, which is stricter than an R rating because it means you cannot go and see it if you are under that age, even if you're accompanied by an adult, which I think is a little ridiculous, but that's a whole other discussion. So this is again in the country I live in. This movie is rated 15, meaning that if you're under 15, so you can't even get in. In other countries, I know, so I have some friends in Europe, it's rated, I think in Germany it's rated 16, which again, that's 13, 14, 15-year-olds all can't go and see it. And in the States, if you're under 17, you'll need adult accompaniment with you. So what teenagers is this pandering to? The fucking ones that aren't allowed to go and watch it?
Joker isn't the first R-rated superhero film recently. It's different in a way because it is, I guess, more mature. I hesitate to use that word mature, but I guess
Why? It is.
Because, well, think back to Deadpool, right? Which is clearly a comedy. It is an adult R-rated film with a juvenile sense of humor. Its violence is cartoonish and fun.
Yeah, and it's simplistic because, as you were saying earlier, comedies are all simplistic. This video is garbage.
Logan is a film that tried to push boundaries more in this respect, and Joker is.
I still haven't fucking seen Logan. I fully admit that. Also, there's roadworks outside my house. What a lovely sound that's making. But yeah, I still haven't seen Logan. I'm gonna get fucking copyright struck for this song. I know it.
On a podcast, on that podcast, I think I've said Joker is a good movie before. Yeah, so.
It is, and you got embarrassed because your friends made fun of you because your pretentious wanker friends, the fucking Zoophile and the guy that made those two garbage Last Jedi videos made fun of you. Why do you care what those retards think?
I'm gonna explain why I'm an idiot. But no, listen.
No, I've done that for you, Ralph. It's fine.
I love movies. I love going to the movies. So I'm sitting down in the theater. I'm watching a Joker movie, and I enjoyed it. I was enjoying it because I'm sitting down in a movie theater watching a movie. But there's
Well, this scene, the scene you've chosen is utterly brilliant as well. So I'm glad you've.
a film, then you're.
Also, this isn't Terminator: Dark Fate. It's Joker, so these seats should all be full.
Your initial impression of a film than when you see it. There is so much more going on in a film. Like when you watch Citizen Kane for the first time. If you're a moron, you go, that's boring. That's a boring movie.
Again, I like Citizen Kane, and I agree with you that it's not boring, but it's this other thing you're doing. It's that you say about how people can't give their honest opinions without getting attacked, and then what if someone's honest opinion of Citizen Kane is that it's boring? Even if they're a film lover and they just go, well, you know what, it doesn't work for me. Yes, there are innovations in this film, but there are other innovative films from the same time period that just have stood the test of time better. I think it's boring. Now, that's not my opinion. I actually really like Citizen Kane. But if that's somebody's opinion, and that's their honest opinion, you're now being a hypocrite by calling them a moron. Do you not? Again, there's another reason. There are times where this review really feels like a fucking parody. But it's not funny enough to be a fully fledged parody.
Without actually reading about Citizen Kane and why it's a groundbreaking.
You don't need to read about Citizen Kane, though. That's the thing. Everybody already knows about Citizen Kane, and if you're a film lover and you understand a thing called context, you'll notice. If you've seen other films of that era, you'll notice all the cool shit it did first. It's like when you watch King Kong for the first time. If you watch other films from the 30s and then you watch King Kong, it'll blow your mind. Or I rewatched Frankenstein for the 10th time the other day, and I still can't believe that was made in 1931, just for the amount of extras that are in it, the long takes, some of the stuff they do with the editing. Fuck me, I can't believe this. And the sound design, I can't believe this was made in 1931. That's called context. You don't need to read about it. At this point, Ralph, you're being a snob. You're calling people morons, and you're being a snob about it, which is just ridiculous. Fucking twat.
The same thing with any other film that you can list that people say are boring.
Do people say Eraserhead and Solaris are boring? I've spoken to people only on the internet. I've never met anyone in real life who says it, but I've spoken to people on the internet who say 2001 is boring. I completely disagree. I think it's really interesting, but it's slow, so I get where they're coming from, I guess. But do people say Eraserhead is boring? I haven't come across that before.
Meanwhile, they think Joker
and Solaris, for that matter.
Because they sit down in the theater and they watch it once.
Fucking... Oh, God, I'm so sick of this fucking strawman argument the whole way through.
Wow, that was a good movie. And they don't think about it at all.
Yeah, they don't think about it at all. I did. All right, I'm just going to quick question for those in the chat. Who has seen Joker more than once? I'd like to know. Just let me know.
When you actually take a second to think about the film you just watched, it's a completely unoriginal, bland superhero movie.
I mean, there's no superheroes in it, so I mean, there's that. But has anyone here seen it more? Yeah, a few people in the chat have seen it. 4 times, one person, 5 times, yeah, twice. You know, I haven't, but I want to. Yeah, same. I've only seen it the once, but I want to get it on home video because I really loved it. And the thing is, it's the kind of movie people only like, you know. And apparently, the people who like Joker are 14. We're all 14 years old, and we love Batman v Superman. Now, granted, I don't hate Batman v Superman. I don't think it's particularly good, but I don't hate it. I've only seen the endless fucking director's cut, so I know about all the problems in the theatrical cut, and this doesn't fully fix them. But I know a lot of my friends who like Joker didn't like Batman v Superman. Also, I'm not 14. Second, if I like Joker, that means I don't like Citizen Kane, and that I think Eraserhead in 2001, A Boring 2001, is probably my joint favourite, or at least second favourite movie right after Jaws. So I don't see how this is an argument, and I only like Joker because I didn't think about it afterwards. I talked about this movie for days after I saw it, and now I'm doing a live stream talking about it fucking months after the movie came out. What are you talking about? Why don't any of your arguments make sense? And why is my spacebar such a piece of shit?
It takes for Taxi Driver and making a comedy. It was pretty good. It was a pretty good movie. God, I hate that people use what I say against me. So let's look at my initial impressions of Joker.
I mean, to be fair, mate, you're at least it's better than using things no one says against a fake opponent in talking.
From the podcast, I guess that's why this is useful. It was a lot like King of Comedy. Yeah, I see why you guys mentioned it. You can already tell I'm more hopeful in this episode than I am now. I really just got beaten down by society. And the first half of this film is really sad and dour, and I like that about it.
All of it.
See, I just liked it because it was sad. But like, upon watching it multiple times, it's like, was there anything deeper going on in those parts? Not really. It's the surface level scene.
That's just like writing sympathy trick 101. Just have to be beaten up a bunch, and that justifies like
A bunch. I mean, also this shit happens. Like people, teenagers. These are the people that apparently are the target audience of this film, according to this guy. But teenagers are assholes, and they do things like this. If you're dressed like a clown in like a not very nice neighborhood, you're asking for trouble. I once got the shit kicked out of me. I have a false fucking tooth. I got the shit kicked out of me by people because I was in fancy dress and I was with a pretty girl, and they were, you know, and shit got really fucking violent. Actually, it was worse than what happened to this guy in this scene. And they just didn't like me. They just didn't like the way I was dressed. Because I'd gone out to a party and they were offended by my presence. A bunch of youths, a little older than these guys, maybe late teens, early 20s, at a fucking kebab and chips shop. This stuff happens. It's not. I don't know why you're just like, oh, it's so obvious. I'm like, fucking.
Bully. He doesn't get his medication. His mom is awful.
But that's the thing, though. Like, I'm okay with taking this seriously as like a character study, but then when you do delve more into basically the dumb shit. When the dumb shit starts, then it's like, well,
what dumb shit? Be specific.
This tonally isn't really working for me because now I'm thinking about Killer Croc and the Penguin and Two-Face and all this. Right?
Why? Why are you thinking about that? The film doesn't encourage you to. So why are you?
It's like this is very strange to me.
Can I tell you a theory my mom had for this film?
Go ahead.
So there's a little person in this film.
Yes.
And her theory, once the movie's over, she called me and said, I think that guy in the sequel is going to become the Penguin. Gotta love the score for this film too. The violins telling you how sad you're supposed to feel.
Oh god, Ralph, yeah, fucking music that reflects the tone of the scene. Like, what is your argument here? Oh, the music's telling me how to feel. It's the musical score of the film. I agree that musical score sometimes isn't necessary. Sometimes there can be a really great dramatic moment between actors, for example. You'll have a scene, two actors having a really intense discussion or something, and there's a lot of layers to it, you know, and they're not talking about what they're really talking about. Those kind of great scenes, and then they'll put in like manipulative music and stuff. That's not really needed. But imagine this scene of him after he's just killed those guys and he dances without music. Those three guys, excuse me. Yeah, without the music.
Then there's a cutaway to him in the asylum, and he hits his head against the door. That was corny. This is a dead fucking genre. The superhero genre. You're doing...
It's a dead genre. I mean, this movie made $1 billion without a Chinese release. But yeah, it's a dead genre.
nothing.
Also, it's pronounced genre, alright? You and James... I love James Rolfe, but he needs to learn this as well. It's je, not je, alright? Genre.
With it anymore.
Most of the valuable superhero IP is owned by Disney, and they're not going to do anything interesting with it. They put it through the same process they do with everything else. The Pixar movies, the animated movies like Frozen 2, the live-action movies like Aladdin, the new Star Wars movies. It's all straight out of the printer, and that is Warner Bros. Competition. So this isn't really like some masterful art film. It's a studio piece of crap disguised as a thoughtful character study, like a transformer. Oscar bait in disguise.
Joker is not a good movie. Unsubscribed. Lover is not a good movie. Mike Stoklasa.
Watch your fucking mouth. Watch your fucking mouth.
Fam, we get it. You're edgy. I probably made all those people on 4chan upset.
Ralph, the movie maker should be at the bottom of every list. Literally no substance.
I mean... Ralph, if... You know what they say about shoes that fit, my man. I mean... I'm a fan of your content, so I'm not going to say that you have no substance. But if I were to, if my introduction to you was this video, and then you went on to mock someone for saying you had no substance, I would never consider fucking subscribing to you. Look, I am subscribed. I even have the bell clicked. I like this guy, but this video has no substance.
I understand that Joker is a breath of fresh air compared to this stuff, but that doesn't mean it's a great film. It doesn't stand on its own.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Artistic intent, right? So read another one of these weird little things he puts up, little title cards. In my opinion, the film didn't feel like it was crafted with a clear artistic intent. It felt like Phoenix saved a subpar script and production, and the studio really wanted him and were willing to budge on his demands. Okay, do you have any evidence for that? I'm not saying it's not true, but if there is some evidence, you could link to articles or even mention them in your video, but you're not going to do that. Todd Phillips didn't bring much to the story. Shot composition, lighting, and scene direction all was standard. Didn't you earlier on go talk about what a breath of fresh air the cinematography was? Like, oh, it was so nice to see a film where it wasn't flat and the lighting wasn't complete garbage. Oh, the shot composition, lighting, and scene direction were all standard, though. Like, which is it, Ralph? Is the filmmaking a breath of fresh air compared to other comic book movies, or is it standard and bland? I don't think it can be both.
Warner Brothers gave this crew a lot of leeway to make this film, especially and I think that's why this film turned out as good as it did. Of course, I don't know what really happened. I don't know what's from the script, what's improvised, scene by scene, but I have a feeling all of the worst stuff in this film is the stuff that came from the script, and all of the moments that were interesting and unique mainly came from Phoenix himself. According to him, there were some really radical changes made to the film, from script to set. That whole fridge scene was...
Which happens a lot. You're trying to make a point because you don't like the film. You're trying to say, well, the script was, and you don't like Todd Phillips. You're trying to say, well, the script probably wasn't very good and all this. And Joaquin says there were radical changes made. Yeah, that's often the case with studio films and with indie films. I mean, there are certain writers out there who also, particularly writer-directors, who will shoot every word that is on the page and make it, true to their vision. But there's not a lot of that goes on in Hollywood. A lot of the time changes are made and they're still rewriting during shooting with a lot of these big budget movies. So again, that's not a point, that's not an argument, that's just a thing that happens a lot.
How much of this is purposeful? Because when I do see Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, every scene feels purposeful. And in this film you have a really corny, bad scene. The whole Batman connection...
Nice edit there, mate. Fucking hell.
If we're going to go with the whole theory that everything after the fridge is a dream, then why the hell would Joker imagine that Bruce Wayne's parents would be killed? It's such a specific thing to imagine.
Who is saying it's all a dream? Who is this person that you're arguing with?
To tie in with Batman.
I'm just trying to make him smile.
But it's not funny, is it?
Is this guy supposed to be Alfred?
Yes. Yes, Ralph, it is. For a guy that spends so much of his time making fun of DC movies, you can't figure out who the butler at the fucking Wayne household is. The butler who has been established. You keep saying that this is part of some grand universe instead of being a standalone film, which is not true. But if you believe that, then you should be able to immediately identify that this man is Alfred. Well, why is that even a question? Also, and I like this scene. It's a good scene. He's making fun of it a lot, and it's a good scene. And that's a difference of opinion. But can I just point out, I loved the reference to, in this sequence, to the Adam West Batman. I thought that was really, really nice. There's a lot of little moments like that in the film. There's a painting, I think, Gainsborough's Blue Boy in the art gallery in Batman '89, which appears in Arthur's house in this film and stuff like that. You know, I like stuff like that. And the moment where baby Bruce, I'll call him little tiny Bruce Wayne, slides down the little fireman's pole like in the OG Batman series, I got a kick out of that.
You shouldn't be speaking to his son.
For the first 25 minutes of this film, you don't even know it's supposed to be Gotham. It's just a city, and I like that aspect of it. It wasn't about the same set of characters again. It wasn't like, oh, Harley Quinn is going to show up now, and then they're going to fight Killer Croc.
Just because I have negative things to say about the film does not mean I hate the film.
Well, like Arthur himself, all you seem to have are negative thoughts. Just negative thoughts about Joker, it seems. I mean, you've barely said a good word about it, and everything you have said has been backhanded.
Does not mean I think it's a worthless film. I just don't think it's perfect.
What a ridiculous statement. No films are perfect, except Jaws. But other than that, there's no such thing as a perfect film. So what a stupid statement. Of course, it's not perfect. Fucking spacebar.
I don't think it's a masterpiece.
God, this movie's boring, isn't it, Rocky? It's so boring. It's so boring. Oh no, it's based on my favorite comic book character. You can't make fun of it. You can't make fun of me. People are gonna know how small my PP is. Oh no. Wait, I got on the comment section of my show.
Right, so basically, by pointing out the ridiculous holes in your arguments, pointing out moments where you don't have arguments, and the constantly happening hypocrisy, that means that I'm upset that you're making fun of the film, and it means that I have a small penis. Okay, Ralph, that's all good. That's all good. Good points you're making there.
You have the gall to criticize a movie like Joker? Fuck you. The gross overreaction to this film is hysterical. I get it's an amalgamation of things you liked from when you were 6 years old. You like the Joker cartoons, you like the Joker comic book, but really it's just an okay movie. As far as the cinematography is concerned, I guess it's shot well, but it's not Barry Lyndon. It's not precise. There were better looking movies this year. Joker's an exceptional movie? Okay, what's the exceptional part? This is exceptional. It's not even Joaquin Phoenix's best performance. We're still talking about
I agree.
Batman movies for fucking
I agree that the best Joaquin Phoenix performance is probably The Master. I agree with him on that. Although, don't worry, he won't get far on foot is also brilliant. But so is Joker. I mean, I'd say Joker's probably in the top 5 Joaquin Phoenix performances.
60 years. Can we talk about a film that's original, please?
The beginning of this movie is boring as hell. Something bad happens to Joker. They play some sad violin music.
Didn't earlier on in the podcast ago, I really liked the first half of the movie where it's really sad and downbeat. I really like that. The beginning of this movie is boring as hell.
Rinse and repeat. It gets a little better when Joker's making faces with this kid, but then Joker starts having a laughing fit and has a card with his condition. And that part was okay, but then they have to play the sad violin music to remind you that this is a sad scene instead of just letting the scene end.
Guys, I hope that roadworks outside my house isn't too loud. It's really annoying.
Give me a break. I like De Niro, and I get what people like about this character.
Do
It's
you?
a cartoonish TV host,
But that's not all we like about him, though. Because as we get to see him sort of offset and on set when the conversation gets dark and he tries to retake control of his own TV show, we see a little glimpse of the person that he is inside, and he's not this cartoonish grinning guy comedian who just tells jokes. He's a human being. One of my favorite things, it's not subtle, but it's just, you don't know the first thing about me. It absolutely sums up that the people that we see on television are not necessarily themselves. We're seeing their representative, the person that they want us to see. Or if sometimes the person they don't want us to see, we're seeing like a manipulated version. I think Murray's quite interesting, and I certainly don't see him as cartoonish.
there's nothing more to it.
Bullshit.
It just serves to be a father figure metaphor for Joker's story, and that's it. He doesn't actually have a character or wants, desires. Does he have a family? Like, oh, it's a parody. It's like Requiem for a Dream. So everybody's heard.
It's better than Requiem for a Dream.
Hey, super rats, you know, fellas.
That's just my opinion, though. I'm not like Ralph. I'm not going to call you a moron for liking Requiem for a Dream. I just don't like it.
Hey, it's easier to write jokes that are ironically bad instead of actually writing jokes that would be funny. But in all seriousness, you know what I mean, folks? These super rats. You ready for this?
Yes, the dated humor. It seems weird in a film that is set in, 1981? Yeah, this is what jokes on TV were like.
It's still funnier than Jimmy Kimmel. Why did we cut to
Yeah, that's
a
true.
shot behind him that's rotating around him? James Wan direct this?
Sorry, I think it's boring. I mean, even Rocky doesn't seem interested. Are you okay, Rocky? You seem kind of weird.
Yes, your dog is cute.
But
Get
let's say
back
a
to the
far less
review now.
talented actor played this role. Like, let's say, Jared Leto. When Jared Leto heard that Warner Brothers...
God, I hate Jared Leto so much.
...starring Joaquin Phoenix and not him,
Just say his name normally, Ralph. It's no longer funny.
he was reportedly upset by it. But here's the thing, Jared Leto. You're acting...
Where do you live for me?
And there was apparently, like, enough footage to give this guy his own movie, and they edited it down to 5 minutes, and all that was left was this buffoon with tattoos on his forehead.
You know, some of the criticism is so over the top vitriolic.
But I bet if Jared Leto had a full film to flesh out this character, it would have been better. Actually, I completely take that back. The truth is, no one would be able to stand this version of Joker for more than 5 minutes. This talented crew was able to bring some life into it. But when you remove them, and you look at the script and the story, and the heart of what this movie is trying to say, I think it's a lot of ideas kind of meshed together, and something is made of it, and it's definitely entertaining, but it's ultimately a combination of a bunch of other different movies. But it doesn't really come together, and it doesn't really have a vision that oh my god, what is with De Niro's face? Phoenix carries this whole movie. He's good.
Yeah, it's about him. He's the protagonist, and it's a character study, which you know because you've talked a lot about The King of Comedy, which, while a far less dark film, has the same kind of setup. It is a character study about one person in particular.
The movie around him is bleh. Another film this really reminded me of.
Again, that's just your opinion, though. Like, you haven't given any arguments. You've just said it's not good and insulted people who like it.
You Were Never Really Here. It's a really dark film. The way they were able to capture this grimy city and this disturbed character's mental state was very effective. Hit home way more for me. I think Phillips took a lot from that film as well. So let's say the whole ending is a dream. All of these
Why do you keep saying that? Who is this person you're arguing with?
characters are just manifestations inside Arthur's head. At the conclusion, in his deluded mind, he thinks he's a savior. He's being hailed on the street,
and then they cut to him in the asylum. This could easily just be because he killed his mother and not because of anything.
I swear we talked about this already. Like, we've had this fucking discussion already, Ralph.
Boring narrative. Okay, so society beat him down, so he hid in his refrigerator and imagined that he went on a talk show and killed a guy and became the Joker. Hey, come here.
Yeah, it's your review that's making him vomit, mate. Why is this in the video? Why is your dog getting sick in the video?
In conclusion, this is a bland film, mediocre, superhero, overproduced, whatever. It will get awards consideration.
Because it's good.
It's the blandening of Hollywood.
Remember when earlier on in the review and you said it was a breath of fresh air and it was shot really well and stuff and Joaquin Phoenix was brilliant. But, it's the blandening of Hollywood because apparently this is the same as The Avengers to you.
Won Best Picture. Now it'll be between...
Yeah, it did win Best Picture. And it beat Jaws, and I'll never forgive it for that.
Joker.
I love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, by the way.
Ant-Man and the Wasp 3.
Yes, because Joker and Ant-Man is the same film.
Hey guys, Mooper here. And I just saw the new Ralph the Movie Maker on the Joker, and I have to say, I'm very insulted by his opinion.
Again, no one's saying that, Ralph. No one's insulted by your opinion. People are baffled by your hypocrisy and your appalling your appalling arguments. Well, non-arguments. It's not your opinion that bothers us.
No, I'm not trying to be mean. I mean, I like Ralph. He makes a lot of good videos. But we really have to look at his analysis and thoroughly break down why he's just a terrible critic. I'm really not trying to hurt his feelings. Like, if you zoom in on his face here, if you zoom in, like, just keep zooming in on his disgusting face. I'm not trying to hurt his feelings or anything. I'm just going to call it, his disgusting face. I'm just going to call it his disgusting face. I'm not trying to...
What point are you making?
It seems like Ralph is just angry, and he's not actually looking into the film and exploring on it.
Well, I mean, it does seem like you're angry, Ralph, because you sound bitter for the entire video. But again, you're approaching this little skit at the end of addressing the backlash you know you're going to get. But the problem is, because of your lack of understanding, you've already misrepresented what your critics are going to say. Because this is not the argument we're making. We're saying that you've made a bunch of non-arguments and presented your critics as idiots, and presented people who like this film as idiots, and then tried to act like you have some kind of objective standard.
Deeper level what the film is trying to say about society.
Sounds like a bunch of shit to me. I went to go see a superhero movie, and it wasn't fun. It was really sad and depressing. Therefore, I feel like I'm an adult and I'm mature.
You literally said the thing you liked about the movie when you were on Sardonicast was how sad the first half of the film was, and now you're making fun of this fake person who had the same opinion as you going in. What does that even say about you?
Look, I saw a film that won the Golden Lion, even though it's fucking on pajamas.
Who cares? Who cares if the character is on pajamas? What a ridiculous statement. Oh, this film isn't good because you can get Funko Pops of the character. What a fucking stupid argument. What, something has to be, like, not marketable to be good. Something has to be non-merchandisable to be good, according to you. Ghostbusters. What a piece of shit, am I right, fellas? Fucking Star Wars. More like Star Wars, am I right? Fucking Back to the Future. What a load of crap. Jesus Christ. Is there anything else, or is it just the credits?
Hey, Rocky, you want to come to bed? There's a perfectly comfortable bed for you right here, Rocky. Okay.
There's another skit about his fucking dog. Okay.
Good night.
Also, clean your fucking room. You know, close your little cupboard and everything. Your house looks like shit. Yeah, so I'm gonna turn this advert off because I don't want to get in trouble. So that was Ralph the Movie Maker's absolutely appalling Joker video. I don't think it's amongst the worst reviews on YouTube by any stretch of the imagination. There's so much out there. Like, there's archives of fucking Game Dude. There's archives of just videos of guys who just sit in front of their DVD collection with fucking terrible audio and just recount the plot of a movie. This is still leagues ahead of that kind of shit. But this was, I would say, of the standard. It was better in terms of the fact I didn't want to throw my computer out of my window. But it was of the standard of a Nostalgia Critic video, for the most part. The skits weren't funny, although they were mercifully short. The arguments didn't make sense. He contradicted himself. The structure was all the fuck over the place. Like, he made the same point at like 3 different intervals about the dream theory, which again, he never presented any evidence that anyone is arguing that Joker is a dream. He addressed that like 3 different times throughout the review. He jumped to the ending near the beginning and then talked about it again. And they're like, why did you feel the need to do that? So structurally, it was bad. It wasn't edited well. Like, there were moments where he did that weird sort of cut halfway through a word, again, sort of, that is funny when guys like JonTron do it, but I don't think he really pulled it off. He did that kind of weird, awkward editing. There was a lot of stuff that it was too long as well. Like, that review could have been shorter. He could have made the points he made, which, I mean, I don't think were very good points, but he could have made them in a far more concise way than that as well. Jacob, what do you think of his reviews besides this one? I actually think some of them are quite good. And I think he's often good at... I've never thought his skits were funny, but I think he's often good at breaking down what's wrong with a movie, or even what works about a movie. I think he's normally quite good at analysis. But this was not fucking analytical at all, which is what led me to believe the first time I watched it was a parody. But having seen it a second time now, I'm definitely leaning more into he meant this retarded shit. Yeah, I agree that even if it was a parody, who cares, because it's not funny. That's the thing. Like, you can troll people by going, haha, I was only pretending to be retarded. It's like, okay, what did you accomplish by doing that? I made everybody mad. No, you just made everyone think you were retarded. I don't think it was a parody. I think Ralph got a little bit up his own ass. I agree. I think, Ralph just... So, here's what I think happened. And I know I'm not alone in this. But again, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying this is definitely what went down. But he went on Sardonicast with that fucking animal fucker and that creep I hate everything. And the animal fucker is the other one, by the way. Adam is the animal fucker. And the other one's, a weirdo and made 2 really, really bad videos about The Last Jedi, which we might cover, actually, considering we're still, it's still early enough in the day. I've still got time to get to the gym after this, so I might get another cup of coffee and do another bad review if you guys would be interested in that. But he went on Sardonicast with them, and he had some very positive things to say about the film. He was like, it's not perfect, but I liked... I liked the first half of the movie a lot. It was really sad. It had a dark mood, which I really enjoyed. He made a lot of these things that he then, in his review, criticized people like me or like you, if you liked it in the audience. I know some of you guys didn't, but I think most of you guys did like Joker. Criticized us for the same things he was saying. And I think what happened was his snobbish friends who only like movies like Parasite, and I haven't seen Parasite, I've got nothing against it, just isn't out in the UK yet. But those kind of people who, feel like, oh, you have to read about Citizen Kane. And by the way, that's funny coming from him when, like, his friend on Sardonicast fucking said that Citizen Kane was the first movie to have a proper narrative structure. Like, fucking GG galaxy brain take there. Anyway, sorry I'm rambling so much. I'm still kind of in morning mode. I know it's almost midday, but I'm still kind of in that morning headspace. But I think that his friends made fun of him. His idiot friends were like, "Oh, you like Joker? Haha, you're stupid." And he just kind of thought more and more about it and convinced himself he didn't like it. Now, I'm not saying that's definitely what happened. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to say, "Oh, I don't act like Ralph and be like, I can read people's minds. I know what everybody's thinking." That's just the impression I got from watching this video. I could be completely off base with that. But that's the impression I got from having heard clips of the Sardonicast thing and then watching that video. It's the Navigator. So did you guys hear fucking George Wood from Gaming in the Clinton years is back now with Gaming in the Trump years? He's got a video out. Like, it's not that funny, the video, although he does a classic George Wood thing of like playing a huge clip of the game. And he gives away the ending. He's like, the game is full of surprises. You'll be even more surprised when, and then tells you the fucking twist. It's amazing. Like, the video isn't, it's not like meme worthy like a lot of his old videos, but it's just fun to see him back. Ralph often gets bullied into talking shit on a lot of the superhero movies you can tell he enjoyed. Yeah, like I was saying a minute ago, this is just the impression I get from the reviews. This is not me saying that's definitely what happened. And I'm not trying to put words into Ralph's mouth either. I'll just put my fingers in his mouth, and then when his dad punches me in the face, he can say that he punched me for no reason. All right, I'm going to get another cup of coffee, but I'll be right back, guys. So bear with me. I'll be returning in just a moment. Okay, someone just pointed out in the chat that the video on The Last Jedi is an hour long, so I might just go to his video where he it's not quite a review, but there's a video where he talks about the negative criticism he got. Well, I suppose positive criticism is the thing, it's just an unusual phrase. The criticism he got from The Last Jedi comments. So let's oh no, Star Wars The Last Jedi, he's perhaps somebody was talking about another video. But yeah, so Star Wars The Last Jedi is only 20 minutes long, and he's done the Last Jedi comment comeback, which, as best as I remember, he doesn't answer any of the legitimate criticism that he's given, and he just answers the idiots. It was akin to when the Ghostbusters trailer came out, and Sony was deleting negative comments, leaving positive ones, but they were also leaving like sexist comments and like stupid comments going, this film looks like fucking garbage, fuck Sony. They were leaving stuff like that and things saying like, oh, these women can't be Ghostbusters, they should be busy in the kitchen. Like all that stuff was being left. And people, but like comments like mine were deleted. I remember I said something like, this film cost 3 times the budget of Deadpool and it looks like it was made for Netflix. Why is the color palette so bad? And there's a long thing I posted that was deleted. Somebody else posted a comment about the rebranding of old franchises as being really tired and stuff, like, and I saw that get deleted. And somebody made like an archive of all the shit that got deleted, and that's what IHE reminded me of when he did the comment comeback to The Last Jedi, because he just responded to like the stupid comments and or just the ones that weren't really insightful. I'm gonna go get the coffee now, so it should be ready. I should point out with the creepy comments, that's just me being a little bit prejudiced. It's when I call Adam creepy, I'm basing it on the fact that he's okay with people fucking animals. When it comes to I hate everything, it's a little different. Wasn't it Alex? I think his name is. I just find the guy a little bit odd. I don't know. I think it's with a certain type of person. I'm gonna just it just makes me sound very prejudiced. As if guys like him are just very kind of creepy to me. Guys who are I don't know. I'm gonna sound like one of those geeks and gamers types, and I find those guys wankers as well. But I'm gonna sound like one of them if I say, oh, guys like him, you know, there's a level of soy boyery. Just I find a little bit yucky. My coffee is not warm enough. I don't like my coffee machine. It cools down. The hot plate doesn't stay on. It has a timer. It turns off after like, I don't remember how long, maybe half an hour. That annoys me. Did you survive the incel violence at your Joker screening? Yes. I mean, yeah, I didn't. I was badly wounded at Frozen 2, but I was all right. I was all right at Joker. I'm gonna do something really blasphemous, and I'm gonna nuke my coffee for 30 seconds in the microwave because it's just not warm enough. All right, I am back with coffee that I've damaged. By the way, guys, again, this is not a political stream, but do you all know what today is for the UK? Does anyone know? Does any of my non-UK listeners know what today's all about? Silence, Brand. Right. Oh, yeah. Full screen could be fun. Let's do that.
There's one thing I hate in this terrible, beautiful world.
See, this is the thing. I don't like his voice either. Here's some money to get the new coffee machine fund. Never microwave your coffee machine again. Thank you, Rudy. That's very nice of you. I really appreciate that. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to put that on a new coffee machine. I'm going to put it towards my rent. Because those of you who were on the stream the other day when I walked in the house, I just had a letter from the tax man that I owe him 800 quid. So that's pretty much bankrupted me. So yeah, super chats at the moment, with the exception of the one that was specifically for Logan, which I'll be putting to one side when I get my check. Any super chats are going towards my rent and food. Okay. Yes, today is today's Brexit day. Yes. So, because my mum asked me, she's like, "Are you going to do a stream about Brexit? 'Cause it's happening after the evening." I thought, yeah, maybe, and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing a stream in the daytime now." But I mean, I still could, we'll see. Is the stream going to stay up? Maybe. It depends how embarrassed I am by it when I listen back to it. That's usually how it works. If I think a stream was good, I'll usually leave it up. If I think a stream was a shit show and I made a fool of myself, I'll usually take it down. So it depends how this bit goes, because I was pretty. I think I was pretty articulate, a little bit umming and ahhing and maybe too sweary on the Ralph the Movie Maker review. But I think I think I got my points across. Considering I'd only just woken up, I think I got my points across fairly well. Watch a Joker to drive in to avoid getting shot. We don't still have drive-ins in the UK, I don't think. At least not around here, we don't. I'm feeling generous, and here's 10 Swiss quid for the rent fund. Oh, thank you so much. That was, guys, that thank you, but that wasn't, I wasn't dropping hints or anything. You know me, I'm not a dark side Phil type, I'm not a beggar. That's not what I was doing, I was just being honest. But thank you. That's really nice of you. I definitely understand not looking your own stuff in retrospect. Yeah, sometimes, especially because you guys know me. At the moment I'm off the booze because I'm going to the gym a lot and I'm trying to get in shape. But I like to drink. I'm not an alcoholic, but I like to drink. And sometimes I'll go on a stream and I've had a few too many, and I'll say something stupid, or I'll deliver a point in such a way that it sounds like I'm saying something really bad or whatever, and I think, oh, maybe I should get rid of that. It happens to everybody. And with a channel like this. I'm not one of the big guys. This is a very small channel. I can't really run the risk of losing my audience because you guys are like, I don't know. We're like friends. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be weird to not have the channel anymore. I don't think we have drive-ins in Switzerland. We barely have anything over here. Jacob, do you have a license to stream, mate? Won't need to, mate. My EU streaming license. Won't need it after tonight. I'm going to rip it up. Apparently Article 13 is not going to happen now as well, so don't have to worry about the stupid copyright bullshit. Now I'm going to get into this review in just a minute. But I'm going to talk a little bit about, because I do feel a little bit mean about calling I Hate Everything a creep just now, because I wasn't basing it on anything. With Adam from YMS, he is a creep, and I can say that with confidence. But with this guy, it's just a vibe he gives off. I don't like the vibe he gives off. So, questions I was going to ask are, do you find that to ever be a valid issue with someone? Just you don't like the vibe they give off? Or do you think that's just people being silly? And has anyone ever said something like that about you? Interestingly, I had an argument with somebody on Facebook, which is always the worst place to have an argument. It's just a waste of time. And they went. It was some kind of racism thing. I can't remember what the concept was. It was some person who was like some other white person who was like decrying white people. I think someone like that. But I don't remember what the argument was about, and I don't want to misrepresent them on what they said. But we were arguing anyway. And the guy went on my profile and he said that I looked like the living embodiment of white privilege. Which on the one hand I thought was a really mean thing to say. So I thought, well, you know, you don't know the first fucking thing about me, and you know, you're being. I mean, if you weren't the same color as me, I'd say you were being racist. But thank you very much for the super chat, by the way. There isn't a comment attached to it, but thank you to a bunch of letters for that. But yeah, I thought that was, you know, I thought that, yes, he was a white man himself. I thought that was a very ridiculous thing to say. But also, I was kind of complimented because I thought I must look a lot wealthier, and I must look like I haven't suffered anywhere near as much as I have in my life. Because I think, you know, I've got a pretty, you know, I've got a receding hairline, but mostly I've got a pretty good head of hair. The hair I've still got is thick. You know, I've got good bone structure. I've got good skin. I don't think I look like I've struggled as much as I have. I take good care of myself. So yeah, it was a part of me that was complimented by it, and a part of me that was very insulted. But have you ever had someone say something like that about you? You know, just picked out some weird vibe about you that's nowhere near the truth. I'm interested to know. Before the Onision stuff came out, I saw clips of him, like the Banana song, and thought, I don't like this guy. Yeah, you know what it was with me? I felt the same way. I think this is before I heard any of the weird stuff, because I saw like Repsion's videos about him and stuff. Before all of that, because he was very popular on YouTube, and I thought, I don't like this guy. I don't like his look. I don't like his attitude. I don't like the face that he makes when he's talking. He seems very smug. He gave off Jared Leto vibes, and I hate Jared Leto. So straight away I was like, I don't trust this guy. Did you get Shadowman running on Windows 10? Kind of. It's going to be a bitch to stream, but I'll make that magic happen. One guy asked me not to go for him if I did shoot up the school, and he immediately jumped to the top of my list. The fact you had a list means that those people were at least somewhat right to think you were a school shooter. But well done on not shooting up the school. At least Jared Leto isn't a child molester. Well, I mean, so they say. There's certainly no proof. And again, let's talk about vibes. Because this was before James Gunn came out and said that Jared Leto has a penchant for underage girls. Before any of that came out, I always looked at him, and I remember saying, like, drunkenly to my friends, and I was like, because we weren't live, we were just chatting, and I was like, guys, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not accusing anybody, but Jared Leto looks like the kind of guy who likes me young. He looks like the kind of guy who'd fuck his underage fans. You know what I'm saying? He just looks like it. Ethan Sobel, misappropriate this money, please. I'm going to get married and misappropriate it. Those are the jokes. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much, Ethan. Are you excited for Plague Inc. IRL? Yes, I am. You know, I'm so happy to see the world fall again. I don't worry about coronavirus, though, because, you know, what I drink is Bud Light. You know, my car has a Confederate flag on the top. It's pretty cool. Oh, by the way, speaking of rednecks, I accidentally said... Well, I didn't accidentally. I was at work the other day. We were just basically gutting out this building and just, you know, doing just chopping woods and stuff and sawing and drilling stuff. And my two colleagues, my boss and another colleague of mine, were just going on and on and on about how much they hate guns and how gun ownership is terrible and pointless. And I just had to open my mouth. I just had to. And I just got... Ironically, I got blasted. Not by firearms, but, you know... Ironically, I got like, verbally blasted for like 10 minutes. And I was like, well, I said it was a controversial position. No, it's an indefensible position. Your position doesn't make sense. It's a flawed position. I'm like, all political positions are flawed. That's why there's no moral absolutes. But yeah, these guys just fucking lambasted me. And I think they... Certainly my boss lost some respect for me. I'm still on probation. It's a fairly new job. So I think if I don't get it, there's a part of me that thinks... Maybe because I admitted I was pro-gun is going to sway him one way or the other. Fucking Pabst Blue Ribbon. Apparently I give off weirdo vibes. right, guys. So let's get started with this one. So if you've just joined us, I might leave this one up at least for 24 hours. So if you want a chance to check out our reaction, mine and the chat's reaction to the Joker, the ridiculous Joker review from Ralph, the movie maker, we had a lot of fun making fun of that. I got a little bit aggressive with him at times, but it was fun. This video I haven't seen since it released, so it's not very fresh in my mind. So it may take me a while to think up things to say. But let's dive in, shall we? Oh, forgot my spacebar doesn't work properly. Okay. I always feel like people who say that are not nerds. You know what I mean? It's like a justification for their stupid opinion. It's like, well, I'm such a major geek, you know me, and then they'll go on to have just a shit take.
I really adore the original trilogy, warts and all. Films like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Back to the Future are a big part of what I want to see out of cinema. Sure, films like 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Deer Hunter are excellent, well-made movies, but to me at least, they're not the kind of thing that I'd throw on a cold Sunday afternoon for a bit of fun, light-hearted entertainment. I guess everything has its place, and to me, Star Wars...
It's interesting seeing this from a couple of years back, from nearly 3 years back now, and then hearing him on Sardonicast belittling mainstream films, isn't it? That's interesting how that's happened. Who's sending you death threats? I don't think that's true. I think you're talking out of your arse.
Movie. I was going to throw my hat into the ravenous, never-ending black hole that is opinions on The Last Jedi long before this. But for too long I just felt too beat down and disappointed to say anything. But
is that video volume better now?
Not finally break my vow of silence. I think the reaction and response to The Last Jedi is quite frankly embarrassing, and there are a lot of...
Why? It's a huge piece of shit. People made fun of it because it's bad, and even if it wasn't bad, and people had problems with it anyway, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with internet opinions? Like, people share... What's one of the things I like about the internet, and I like about this website in particular, is so many people can just share their opinions, and quite often there'll be a variety of different opinions. A consensus sometimes forms, but you can operate outside that consensus and still try to make compelling arguments. So where I think Ralph failed, and from what I remember, you fail at this, is they don't make compelling arguments. I think I could, if I really sat down to do it, could make a compelling argument for why I think Revenge of the Sith is not very good, even though the internet consensus is it's brilliant. Am I embarrassed by the fact that the internet says a film I hate is brilliant? No, I'm not embarrassed by it because I don't care. And neither should you.
But people who should be ashamed for the things they've said because of a Star Wars movie. What kind of world are we living in where it's normal for people to send a director hate messages because they didn't like the movie they...
What are you talking about? Can you show some of these hate messages, please? Can you put them on the screen? Because otherwise this is just an empty statement.
Made. Grow up, you pathetic children.
Also showing a picture of Rian Johnson while saying, grow up, you pathetic children. I don't know.
I just think it's kind of sad that such rampant negativity can be spawned from a franchise that is all about never allowing the darkness to win and holding on to hope at all.
Except The Last Jedi isn't about that. The Last Jedi is a piece of postmodernist crap about, about how everything is terrible.
Costs.
I'll never join you!
I don't really care if you like or dislike The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. It's perfectly within your right to feel however you want, but do you not think...
Yeah, and I do dislike those films, especially The Last Jedi. And you've just said it's well within my right to do it, but now you're going to go off on one about how I'm a cunt.
I think that the backlash is kind of massively over-exaggerated.
I assume that's what he's going to do. Obviously, I haven't watched this video in a very long time, and I don't want to strawman this guy. I can't remember everything he says. It's not fresh in my memory like the Joker video was.
And unnecessary. It comes across as if a large majority of people go into these movies with the sole intention of hating them. No matter how bad you think something is going to be, being so...
That's a really good point, Virus, in the chat there. Fluffy wordage for a movie that was made from pure spite. bite. You're absolutely right there. I mean, and this isn't just conjecture either, because I can back this up with evidence. The Last Jedi feels like, and I said this at the time, and I likened it to Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, is it feels like it was made with contempt, not only for its source material, but for its fan base. And there is evidence of this, because there is an interview with both Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill, where Mark says, I would say to Rian several times, we have to think of the fans, and he would say no. And he and Rian laughs and smiles through him saying that. Yeah, I did say that.
Single-minded and belligerent, just for the sake of justifying your pre-made opinion, is kind of a pathetic and...
Your pre-made opinion? How does that... What? Aren't you straw-manning critics of this film and then saying they're the ones with a pre-made opinion about something? Okay.
Childish way to handle it. I think the response to The Last Jedi has kind of left fans in a weird place.
Yeah, I thought it sucked and I want everyone involved to die horribly.
Who's saying that? Can you please give evidence? You showed some negative reviews that just said they were disappointed. Can you... Did I miss... I'm going to go back to look at those negative reviews he showed. He scrolled on the screen. Did they say anything really vitriolic? Let's break it down. Okay. So deeply disappointed right now. I dearly wanted to love this movie. I remember emerging from the theatre saddened and stunned. The reasons are well documented by many here. I never imagined signing up to Rotten Tomatoes, but such is my disappointment that I felt compelled to have my little rant. Okay, so there's nothing about death threats or wanting anyone to die here. The next one, the last Star Wars movie that I'll ever see. Yep, that's called voting with your wallet. That's perfectly valuable. The worst feminist propaganda ever. Waste of time. They've spelt waste incorrectly. And feminists, they've also put feminists instead of feminists. So this person's probably not very smart. Or just, they could be smart. They just might have dyslexia. But I don't think it's the worst feminist propaganda ever, because it's not Ghostbusters 2016.
With the sole intention of hating them, no matter how bad.
So. Also, it's like we went in with the sole intention of hating them, right? Again, disappointed. They went in with this, and then he says, you go in with the sole intention of hating these films. Deeply disappointed. So, right here is a contradiction in what he was just saying. People are going in wanting it to be good. I remember emerging from the theatre, stunned, saddened. I never imagined signing up to Rotten Tomatoes, but such was my disappointment. Do you really think this person, Mike A, went into the cinema to be disappointed? Because I don't fucking think he did.
Handle it. I think the response to The Last Jedi has kind of left fans in a weird place.
Yeah, I thought it sucked and I want everyone involved to die horribly.
Because it seems to me that the accepted opinion is now that this film is really bad and it ruins Star Wars for some reason.
Yes, that is the accepted opinion, and of course you can say that. And I think the reason that people feel it ruined Star Wars is because it left the saga. Now, it's not a side story like Rogue One or Solo. It's not its own thing. It is the continuation of the main story that begins with either Star Wars, aka A New Hope, or if you watch them in chronological order from Phantom Menace right through to now. And this film completely derails everything and leaves the franchise in a place where it had nowhere to go. So I think it's fair, while you don't have to agree, and you can present your arguments, and I hope you will in this video, you can present your arguments as to why it doesn't ruin Star Wars. I think it's fair to say that it does.
Even though
it certainly ruins the chances of the franchise recovering. I think.
Star Wars was already ruined 3 times prior. I think discussing movies is a lot of fun. Casual debates help challenge your viewpoint and only benefit the overall...
And again, I agree with him that the prequels are garbage, but the consent, that's not the common consensus. The common consensus is that the prequels are good. Certainly Revenge of the Sith. Again, I disagree, but that's the common consensus. So he just puts up pictures of the prequels like that's a point. He doesn't... I understand that he doesn't have hours and hours on this video to explain why the prequels were bad, but I don't know. I just don't see how that's an argument to just say, oh, the prequels. I'm like, well, yeah, a lot of people like them, though.
Landscape, but a lot of the discussions around this movie are just straight up malicious and overly simplified.
Please give examples.
You have 2 choices. You can either really love it or think it's the worst film ever made.
One of those reviews... This is another thing that's pissing me off. You either love it or think it's the worst. In your own video, where you have personally cherry-picked bad reviews to show, one of them was a 2-star review. On a website where you can give half stars, one of them was a 2-star review. Are you telling me that that person loved The Last Jedi? And and if you're not, then you must be telling me that that person thought it was the worst film ever made. Because in neither of those situations would you give a film a 2-star review. Idiot.
There are people who exist out there who actually use "he likes The Force Awakens" as an insult and do not like me as a person because of it.
Okay, no, people don't like you as a person because you're intellectually dishonest.
As if that's a character flaw. You know what, to those people I say, suck on these nuts. I've seen The Last Jedi 3 times at the cinema now, and I never see anything that many times because I kind of hate going to the cinema. Collectively, I've seen the film with 4 different people. All of them are different levels of Star Wars fan, and all of them enjoyed it. 2 of these 4 people never go on Twitter or Reddit, so I found their reaction to be genuinely interesting, because they are out of the internet hate echo chamber. I'm gonna stop avoiding talking about my actual thoughts on the movie now. Get ready for this. Half of you are gonna love me, half of you are gonna want to kill me.
Can I just say as well, it's nothing to do with the film, but I hate the poster for The Last Jedi. And I'll just take it back. I hate this image of Luke. This weird, airbrushed, symmetrical, fucking puppet-mouthed, round-bearded picture of Luke Skywalker. I hate it. I hate this poster. Look how horrible this image of Mark Hamill is. Imagine being Mark Hamill and seeing that image of yourself everywhere. I don't think I'd leave the house without a fucking mask. Look how bad this looks. You know, if anyone's seen the episode of Angel where he gets turned into a puppet, and like they intentionally make him look really sad, like with a downturned mouth, that's what this looks like. Like, what is this? I mean, I assume that's a painting, but these look like... Some of these look like photos. Why does Mark Hamill look so weird? I never understood this when the film was new, and going back years later and seeing the poster, I still feel this way.
Half of you are gonna love me, half of you are gonna want to kill me. The first viewing, I was genuinely unsure on my feelings, but had an overall positive outlook and vibe. There were plenty of things I didn't like, but there were also plenty of things I did like. The second viewing, I had a much better time. It's widely accepted that the film is a lot better the second time. Some of the pacing issues seemed less severe than I originally thought, and I enjoyed the ride significantly more. I think originally I was nervous that they were just going to remake Empire and present nothing new or interesting. But at the very least, you have to admit, this is something new for the franchise.
Yes, it's the first film in the franchise that feels like it was made by someone who hates Star Wars.
No one saw this story coming.
What? Because it's not a story. Like, nothing of consequence actually happens.
At the time, I just had a good experience and was never bored. My opinions were clear and unchanged. Depending on who you are, you're going to approach The Last Jedi from one or more of many perspectives. And from one of those perspectives, The Last Jedi are evil. These include people who are a Star Wars fan, a fan of movies in general, or just someone who is indifferent and wants to know what all the fuss is about. I'd like to think people who genuinely hate Star Wars wouldn't waste their time going to see it.
I mean, someone who genuinely hates Star Wars wasted their time and hours by making it, so...
I'm sure there are a few of them who like wasting their money, just so they feel like they have a right to complain about it. I, of course, fall in line with being a fan of movies first, and a fan of Star Wars secondly. I think this perspective is important because I feel like I, and many others, are looking at this movie in a totally different lens to a lot of other people. Mostly the self-proclaimed...
What's great is this ad comes up just as you can tell he's about to strawman people. You know what I mean? Right. Inverted commas here, classic move, true. Like, we're about to get a fucking strawman right now. You can just feel it, can't you?
Star Wars fans.
If you are a true
Yeah, here it comes.
Star Wars fan, you'd hate what this movie...
At least, like, wait, hold on. This isn't even a real comment, is it? That's a fake one he's made up. Yeah, Ainsley Harriet, fucking -6 subscribers. View all fart replies. Yeah, it's not even a real comment. He couldn't find a real comment saying
Comments
that.
exclaim, I guess it is true that no one quite hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans.
It's
Got him.
only a movie. And if you think you're going to go into the movie and recapture your childhood, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
The Last Jedi is a film I would personally find quite difficult to hate, or at the very least ever call...
Really? I mean, I've never. There's very few big budget movies that I've found as easy to hate as this. The Mummy 2017, I couldn't even hate as much as this, because it was a film I ended up feeling indifferent to. And I wanted to hate it because I'm one of the biggest Universal Monsters fans. You know, especially not, especially in my age group, I think. And yeah, I couldn't hate that as much as I hated The Last Jedi. It's an easy film to hate.
I've seen many people say something along the lines of, "It's a well-made movie. It's just a bad Star Wars movie."
Which is a fair point.
Which you can't really argue with. I'm not here to stop you thinking it's a bad Star Wars movie relative to the others. But what is really bothering me about this entire conversation is that a lot of criticism...
Also, like, what a ridiculous argument. Well, you know, the Return of the Jedi had this weird scene where a bunch of monsters dance and sing. Like, okay, but those monsters dancing and singing doesn't destroy any legacy characters, doesn't kill off people we care about unceremoniously off screen, doesn't neuter characters that we care about and make them useless. Like, what does that scene do to harm Star Wars aside from being silly? Like, what an absurd comparison.
For this movie are not actually criticisms at all. I genuinely saw a comment whinging about The Last Jedi being a bad movie simply because they didn't use the Wilhelm scream sound effect.
Okay, show us the comment. Can you show the comment, please?
It really makes the film bad, doesn't it?
Can you show the comment, please?
Work the way it is depicted in the film in real life. I'm sorry, but if it genuinely annoys you that the scientific rules of space don't apply to a Star Wars movie, then that's kind of on you. Have you been paying attention to this franchise at all? None of it makes any sense, and that's entirely by design.
Huh? Disappointed by lack of science, Star Wars?
You know, it might even...
Yeah, that's exactly what Last Jedi critics are like. We don't like there was gravity in space, and the movie didn't use the Wilhelm screen, therefore it's bad. And thanks for showing the comments, by the way, on the screen that you've received that say that. Thank you for not looking like you made it up.
Be YouTube channels like mine, or more likely channels like CinemaSins, that have created this new standard and expectation for what film criticism actually is. Nitpicking a film to the point where you're purposefully ignoring the context and intent isn't helpful to anyone.
Well, I mean, one, you should tell your friend Ralph that, I think, having watched the Joker review, but also, you're talking about nitpicking and you know, you're cherry-picking arguments. You're not addressing any actual sensible arguments that were made about this film. You're just pointing out... And a lot of this, I think, is straw men you've built yourself because you're not providing evidence. Like Ralph in his Joker review, where he kept talking about this phantom fucking fan of the movie who's like, it's all a dream. He gave no evidence that anyone actually said that. And in your review, you talk about everyone thinks this is the worst film of all time, and then you show a 2-star review. Or people send Rian Johnson death threats, and you just show reviews, again, just negative reviews of the film, and then you show, people, what was the thing you said? People went in wanting to be disappointed, and then you're wanting it to be bad, and then you show a review. Literally, like in the same fucking sentence that you say that, on the screen there's a review talking about how disappointed this person was and how much, I mean, the sense of being disappointed is you go in wanting to enjoy something. So again, you're disagreeing with the evidence you're presenting. You're saying one thing and you're showing another, and you're just hoping that the audience doesn't read what's on the screen. You're effectively relying on the stupidity of your audience for this video to work. And we're not even halfway through. This is a really bad video.
Yeah, it may be funny, but that doesn't mean it's helpful criticism. And over the past year, I've become increasingly more aware of this. I'm trying to make it more clear that what I say is just my opinion, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's the correct opinion.
I feel like you're gonna say that it is the correct opinion, though, at some point in this. Like, you're gonna give... Like, this is very much a fence-sitters kind of review, you know? He's like, oh, yeah, everyone who hates this movie is a total asshole, and they're sending death threats. But, you're allowed to not like it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but then I'm an arsehole who sends death threats, right?
And I feel bad for any video where I've ignored this for the sake of an easy jab at a movie, or whatever. And no, I'm not going to hide behind the, it's just satire, stop taking it so seriously argument. I find that to be a pretty cop-out response to when something is very unclear as to if the intent was comedic or constructive or not.
So that's a cop-out argument, but this is just my opinion, don't hate... is not a cop-out argument. Okay.
So whatever, I liked The Last Jedi. get over it. But what do I like about it? Well, let me tell you. The film is visually stunning and creative. The production levels are off the charts. The cinematography is fantastic all round. The performances...
I agree. Aside from one or two very silly moments, it's arguably the best looking Star Wars movie. There's a couple of moments that look stupid, but it's for the most part, it's the best looking Star Wars movie.
They're brilliant and convincing. Kylo Ren is probably the most interesting character in this entire franchise now.
What's his personality? What is Kylo Ren's personality? He's the most interesting character in the franchise. Okay, what is his personality? He's the guy. I once heard him described as having the same character motivation as Skeletor. I think don't quote me on it. I think that was Razor Fist that said it. But yeah, whoever said it, it's a good argument because his motivation is, I'm gonna kill my dad to prove I'm evil. Like, yeah, really compelling character.
Also, goddamn is he a thick boy. The action is thrilling, the camera work is flowing and well thought out alongside some very clever editing at times. The score by John Williams is so perfect. There's a track towards the end of the movie called The Battle of Crate that juggles so many themes at once that I was wowed by that alone. I don't usually like praising special effects too much because bombastic computer-generated imagery just isn't that impressive to me anymore. The effects work for the most part, bar two shots which I think are really dreadful in the casino, are very tastefully achieved and obviously had a lot of care and thought put into them, with a lot of good use of practical puppets and animatronics alongside some great set design. I enjoyed the themes of learning through failure, even if some characters are thrown to the...
I disagree about the special effects. I think a lot of them look quite bad.
For the sake of reinforcing that
but
point.
Again, that's a matter of
It's a
opinion.
message that even a lot of adults can learn from. But overall, there's a lot more to chew on compared to the previous Star Wars movies in that respect. I think the way the film culminates with the three different plot lines all coming together at once is extremely well executed and genuinely thrilling and exciting. Even
again, this is a matter of opinion, but like, I really disagree. Like, I don't think any of it comes together, and I found myself quite bored by the end. But again, this isn't something I can really quantify as an actual tangible thing. It's just an agree or disagree kind of thing. I just disagree.
And if what it took to get there had some bumpy moments. I really enjoyed not having any clue what was going to happen. Personally, I thought Luke's arc was very satisfying. I didn't have a problem with the way...
Like, again, it's a matter of opinion, but like, what was satisfying about that? Hey, I saved the entire galaxy, and even though my father like destroyed an entire planet, I knew there was good in him, and I knew he could be redeemed. Oh, by the way, now I'm gonna almost like murder a teenage boy because I sensed there might be evil in him, and I've gone to an island to die. Oh, why did you leave a map to your location? I've gone to an island to die. Leave me alone. Like, what is satisfying about that?
Was used like a lot of fans do. To me, it is a logical.
And again, it's an issue of opinion. Like, I can't really articulate that it's objectively unsatisfying, because if you found it satisfying, then that disproves my argument. But from a subjective standpoint, I don't see that as satisfying, and I'm surprised that you do. And I'm not going to call you dishonest and say that you weren't satisfied by it, but you're pretending or some shit like that. But I'm surprised that anyone was satisfied by that.
Extension and fits in line with the original trilogy, while adding something new and genuinely interesting to the way it can work.
But the Force has been ruined! How is it able to do all these new things that were never explained before?
I do like how his angry fanboy voice sounds like Paul Joseph Watson. That's a new thing. I like that.
Well, apart from the very obvious setup and foreshadowing that's all over the film, since when has Star Wars ever established a Force power before just doing it? Yeah, I totally remember the exposition from Obi-Wan explaining how the mind trick works. Oh, wait. No, I don't. Yeah, I remember...
Really? What about moments later where he explains it to Luke? In that same scene, where they drove away, and he explains how it works to Luke. It's literally about 20 seconds later.
That scene where they explain that Obi-Wan can just appear as a ghost for no reason? Oh wait, no, that doesn't happen. I find it insulting that they didn't explain how Luke somehow pulls his lightsaber out of the snow in the Wampa Cave. What an insult to the original movie. And don't even get me started on how Luke and Leia can all of a sudden read each other's minds. Bad writing alert. Bad writing. Hacks.
Again, in the previous film, they established the sort of mind connection thing with Obi-Wan. So again, it wouldn't be surprised. He speaks to him from beyond the grave. twice. He says, you know, run, Luke, after he dies, and then later on in the film, he helps him to blow up the Death Star. You know, tells him to turn off his computer and to trust his instincts. So it doesn't seem out of the realms of possibility that he would appear as sort of manifested like a ghost, or that Luke's ability to hear other Force users would extend beyond, especially with training from Yoda, that would extend, and we don't know what he's been doing between the films, but it would extend beyond Obi-Wan. So to me, I don't see how that's an argument. Like, I get that you're deliberately strawmanning people who dislike how some of the Force powers work in this movie, but again, they are, again, in my opinion, they seem to be, it's not even really a matter of opinion, they are consistent. There is precedent for this stuff, grounds for it that makes sense. So the Force powers we see in Empire Strikes Back feel like a progression from what we saw in the first film. So I don't see how you're, by using those examples, you're not really proving anything.
No, just shut up. Personally, I can't.
Yeah, that's a good argument. Yes, shut up. That's a great argument.
I can't stand the way the Force is used in the prequels. It's too much like a video game for me. It contradicts pretty much everything from the original story. I know some people wanted to see Luke fly around an X-Wing and kill stormtroopers with a lightsaber, but to me that sounds like possibly the worst thing ever. To what purpose or end does that serve? It sounds way too similar to what we got with Yoda in the prequels.
What does being depressed in a cave serve? Like, what function does that serve? I agree, this is garbage. But I can break down why this is garbage.
It's embarrassing and completely ruins his character for me. We already have 3 movies where Luke does everything that everyone wants to see. I don't understand what would be interesting about seeing an old Luke doing all the things he's already done again. Surely that would be meaningless fan service. I also hate how people constantly bring up the quote from Mark Hamill saying that he originally fundamentally disagreed with the script. But then everyone can...
There's actually a ton of quotes from Mark Hamill. Like, not just that one, there's a ton of quotes of him criticizing Rian Johnson, and there's a bunch of videos where you can see him staring daggers at him, both behind the scenes and promoting the film. And this tweet came out of nowhere as well, so one can even infer from that. And again, this is speculation, so I'm not putting words into Mark Hamill's mouth. One can infer that there was some pressure put on him to make this tweet. So you're being very intellectually dishonest right now, Alex, by saying that people are only bringing up this one quote from Mark Hamill, because that's not true.
Conveniently misses out the part where he says in the end he was really proud of what the team did for the movie and that he was wrong. Also, actors are not writers or directors necessarily. Creative conflict between actors and directors is incredibly common, but your job as an actor is to fulfill the director's vision, not the other way around. And one thing you cannot disagree with is that this is the director's vision. I think the fact that Disney was willing to hand their biggest franchise over to one guy who has never directed anything close to the scale before is commendable.
How is that commendable? How is that not risky and potentially dangerous for one of their biggest franchises? I don't see what's commendable about that. If it's a guy who's done a couple of movies, hasn't done anything like this, who's coming to you with an original concept or wishes to adapt something that hasn't been put on the screen before, then I see how that's commendable. But giving the keys to the kingdom on one of your most important franchises, beloved by literally hundreds of millions of people, and then just saying, yeah, do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a side story. It's the next chapter in the main part of the saga, and you can completely derail everything and destroy everything that was set up if you want to. Do you like Star Wars? No, I don't. All right, well, here you go. Here's the keys to the kingdom. Like, how is that commendable?
Let alone giving him the sole reins as writer too. If nothing else, I'm enjoying seeing all these different directors' interpretations of Star Wars. The Force Awakens is a very J.J. Abrams movie. Rogue One is a very Gareth Edwards movie, and The Last Jedi is a very Rian Johnson movie. Honestly, I think...
Oh yes, that's what I think of, dude. When I think of the Disney sequel trilogy, is authorship. I think of fucking auteur theory. Fuck you.
A lot of the blame...
Sorry, that was mean. I just had to go at you for using shut up as an argument. Fuck you is not an argument either.
Some of the fans' problems with the story should be more on the shoulders of J.J. Abrams. He's so obsessed with this mystery box idea.
Well, what are stories but mystery boxes? The withholding of information. Doing that intentionally.
That's not a story. I'm not arguing with Alex, I'm arguing with J.J. Abrams here.
Is much more engaging, whether it's like...
Snoke. Rey's parents.
The mystery box meaning what you think you're getting, than what you're really getting.
And it's since been revealed that he had no plan for what the reveals were even going to be from the get-go. So given that information, I completely understand the route Johnson decided to take with certain characters' secrets and non-existent backstories.
So because Disney fucked up and made stupid decisions, that means Rian Johnson's film was good? What path of logic are you following here? Because I mean, I'm not following it at all. Like, oh, he didn't really have a chance. There were already structural problems with the series before he came on board. So it's good? What's his argument here? Am I just being an idiot? Like, what's his argument?
None of this is to say I think the film is perfect either.
There are no perfect films, except Jaws. We've discussed this.
There's a side plot in like a casino, which most people agree is a bit clumsy and takes up far too much time in an already long movie, especially considering what it ultimately leads to. I think it is a bit exaggerated as to how bad that sequence is, because it really isn't that bad, and is actually quite a short segment of the movie compared.
Jesus Christ, you got enough ads on this video, mate.
Order something. Oh, this looks good.
Comparatively to the rest of it, there's some dreadfully cheesy and awkward dialogue at points.
Fucking subscribe, no
Always
thanks.
had that.
Can you believe this clown's got 2 million subscribers? That's why, like, I don't count subscribers on my channel, because I think, yeah, it's not really an indication of quality.
So that's not really a deal breaker for me.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Beautiful. Beautiful moment. Just, it gave us one of the great remixed songs on the internet. And if you don't know the Toshi Station song, it's a great experience the first time you hear it.
You can't win, Darth.
I thought they smelled bad. On the outside.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
What's goofy about there's a big smelly hairy animal, he cuts it open and he breathes it in, it's freezing cold, and he breathes the smell in and he says, I thought they smelled bad on the outside. I don't see how that's a corny line. Maybe I'm shit at dialogue as a writer, because I've now defended Something Funny Asshole from Joker, and I've just defended I thought they smelled bad on the outside. Like,
Grumpy looking nerf herder. I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
No, it's because I'm so in love with you.
the prequels had bad dialogue.
Try spinning. That's a good trick.
Like, I find it pretty
Now this is
ironic
pod
that you love
racing.
the prequels, but you're calling out this movie for having bad dialogue.
Well, don't worry, bro, because I don't love the prequels, and I'm not really calling out The Last Jedi for bad dialogue. I'm calling out for bad everything else. Well, I mean, not bad cinematography, but
1% message, kind of funny and ironic given the context of what
Yeah.
Star Wars represents. And yeah, treating animals nicely is important and everything. Was it really necessary alongside everything else this film was trying?
I'm going to show this obvious CGI monster and then cut to an animatronics guy with that's puppeting something else.
Trying to achieve? No, not really. Other than to serve those character arcs. Some of the humour is a little too distracting for my liking and does undercut some dramatic moments. But that's not to say none of it works. In fact, this film probably has one of the funniest visual gags from any Star Wars movie, involving some very evil ironing. Also, side note, I don't think comparing the Porgs to minions is fair.
Why not?
In terms of how they actually affect the movie. The minions are actually integral to the plot of all three Despicable Me movies.
Well, in all fairness, in the first Despicable Me movie, they don't do much. They're just comic relief. It's only in the I haven't seen the third one, because I didn't like the second one all that much. In the second one, they're integral to the plot because the villain's plot is about them. But they're not so integral to the plot in the first movie. They're comic relief. So that's, again, you're just not telling the truth, are you? You're just
really
being
don't
dishonest.
Affect anything. They're just birds. If anything, Ewoks are far more comparable to minions because they have a direct impact on the plot of the movie, as well as being designed to sell toys.
Yeah, I don't like them either.
It was a bit of a mess, but just subbing in Admiral Akbar would not have solved anything, other than being fan service, because we ultimately know less about him from the movies than we do Laura Dern's character. Ideally, she would have had some development in a previous movie.
Laura Dern's character is dog shit. You can't. Well, you probably could change my mind, but you could try. Try to change my mind. I think she was awful. And I love Laura Dern. She's one of my favourite actresses.
And while I kind of understand what she did, because Poe Dameron did ruin everything, it was a little unnecessary and stupid and only existed to serve the plot. But again, Star Wars has always been filled with conveniences and plot contrivances, so it really doesn't bother me that much. I don't know what to tell you. So out of everything I've just said,
Does that really sound like a dreadful movie a lot of people are selling it as?
Well, not from what you've said, no. But again, you've not been very truthful. You've presented a bunch of arguments that are not really based on anything. You've said that people are doing things without providing any evidence, and you've made excuses. So for the things that are dreadful about it, there's just been excuse making. Like, well, it's Disney's fault, not Rian Johnson's. Like, so again, that's a very unfair question, because you're framing it as, well, does that, the way I've described this film, does it sound as bad as people say it is? I'm like, well, not the way you've described it, no. But if you were to watch the film, you might, if I were to watch the film, which I have, I wouldn't feel the same way you did about it. So it's a very dishonest question.
Personally, I think there are a lot more positives than negatives. I believe a lot of people are being blinded by the negativity bias and are simply refusing to accept the film for what it is. The negativity bias states that even when they are of equal intensity, negative emotions have a greater impact on us than positive ones. Think of it this way. When you're at a restaurant...
This is true, but what does this have to do with anything?
...and you have a really bad meal that sucks, that ends up with you having to complain, that sticks with you a lot more over the tens or even hundreds of meals you've had at other places that were good and all went well. So
yes.
In other words, so what?
But what does that have to do with this?
You didn't like that scene with Leia and space. What about the amazing way Luke and Kylo explain the same event from different perspectives?
No, that's also crap and contrived.
Or the brilliant sequence on Crate.
No, because that moment is completely ruined by Finn almost completing his character arc. And then, well, you guys know what happens.
Throne room encounter with Kylo and Rey, or the intense action sequence.
Throne room scene is fucking dreadful. Some of the worst stunt choreography I've ever seen, and is indicative of what happens when a director with no experience on these kind of things makes a movie like this. You get a fight scene like that. It was dreadful.
The start of the movie, or the final scene with Luke and Leia, or the way the music builds and swells around every scene, or how creative and thoughtful some of the exposition from Luke is. My point is, I think there's so much more to love than there is to hate, which I know might sound ironic coming from me, but it's what I think. Before writing this, I went back and watched The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Just to try to imagine how people on the internet would react to that movie if it was released today.
Well, the internet wasn't out, but there are videos actually of people being interviewed by local news when they came out, and they were very, very positive about it. There's kind of this urban legend that people hated it when it came out, but it's not true.
I genuinely think it would have gotten equal, if not worse, reaction to The Last Jedi.
Bullshit. You're not basing that on anything. You have no evidence for that.
So many people have a problem with the characters failing over and over again in The Last Jedi, even though that's the very blatant and obvious point of the movie. But somehow forget the fact that in Empire, basically nothing is accomplished at all in terms of the greater story. Sure, characters grow and learn, and that's the point of that movie, but it doesn't have an ending. It's completely reliant on the sequel to finish the story. That's the same thing we complain about nowadays in video games, for God's sake. And I really adore Empire, I'm just saying. Imagine if for some reason Empire had flopped when it originally came out, so it never got a sequel. So much would be left untouched, and it would make the series feel utterly incomplete. It's kind of if The Last Jedi just ended before the crate battle. Just imagine how much
The Last Jedi does feel incomplete, because nothing has changed, really. Except they've taken arguably the most important legacy character, turned him into a whiny bitch, and then unceremoniously killed him. That's really all that's changed in the world of Star Wars. We end in the same place we started. Like, it doesn't matter where the film ends.
Angry people would be if the conclusion was left on a cliffhanger like in Empire. This angry vocal minority of so-called fans has buried any real criticism of the film and has sent the message that it,
just like you will do in your reply to this video and in its comments,
ruined Star Wars, and that it's a dreadful piece of filmmaking when it really isn't. Just like how the meme for The Force Awakens is that it's identical to A New Hope and there's no more nuance or room for discussion beyond that. It's reductive, and I really hope it doesn't send the wrong message to Disney that they should take away the freedom from the directors and writers and turn it all into a focus-tested Jedi council of money-hungry fat cats who have no passion for Star Wars at all. I thought fans were supposed to see the good, not pass off nitpicks and complaints as a reason to hate a new movie in their beloved series.
It's not nitpicks, though. These are fundamental problems with the film. The way the Force is used makes little sense. Characters have entirely new personalities. New characters have new personalities. So guys from the previous film, like Hux is now comic relief. Finn is a background character now. And legacy characters too. I mean, Luke Skywalker is unrecognizable in this film. It's a bastardization of the character. Those are fundamental to the film. The stupid plot, the fact that the film doesn't mean anything, it all ends in the same place it started, the rampant distaste that the film seems to have for previous Star Wars films, these are not nitpicks. These are issues with the overall product. And as much as you try to reframe criticism of this movie as a bunch of whiny neckbeards nitpicking, you can't. Because all you have to do is tune into one decent negative review of the film that addresses these problems, and it completely unravels your terrible arguments. It just unravels them. Because it's not nitpicks.
Mistake?
That's a stupid thing to say. That is a, and I've accused you of dishonesty a lot in this review, Alex. But I think this guy's name is Alex. I apologize if I've got it wrong. But that's really fucking dishonest.
Making creative disagreements with the story as actual criticism and giving off this message that the film is prequel level abysmal is undercutting all the hard work and quality film
I agree, it's worse.
Making that is on show in The Last Jedi, which I think is sad. You can pick apart every single one of the Star Wars movies in the exact same way that people on the internet are doing now to The Last Jedi. Why let yourself get bogged down in the minutia when this movie is so much better than pretty much every other big budget Hollywood snooze fest that is being released at the same time? Yeah.
Why? Why is it better? Like, because what? Because the production designers worked hard and the cinematographer was gifted. Like, I mean, that's true of a lot of films, a lot of bad big budget films. Like, there's this idea, oh, they're just, most big budget films are just products. Yeah, they are to the people at the top, but there are a lot of very hardworking people that work on those movies. So because people were, fuck, I hate this poster so much. Again, just look at his stupid puppet face. As much as The Last Jedi had a lot of hardworking people on it, so do a lot of bad. So fucking lesbian vampire killers had really great production design at times. Still total shit. Still a fucking irredeemable piece of garbage. What? Because the production designer worked really hard and was trying to do something, we should give the film a free pass. It's just another non-argument.
Man, the Last Jedi is the worst movie ever made.
It's not, but it's probably the worst Star Wars movie, except maybe this one.
Forget about the prequels.
Fucking episode 2. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but if you can, yeah, episode 2.
Which have aged horribly, by the way. Yeah, I prefer The Mummy 2017. Yeah.
I mean, no one prefers The Mummy 2017. No one remembers The Mummy 2017. I did an entire fucking feature commentary on that film with Matt and Gemma. I don't remember anything about that film except, I tell a lie. I remember the part in the plane because it was in that trailer where they released it without music, and there was an ambulance chase, and they stole one of the side characters from American Wolf in London.
Justice League was so much better. To me, Alien Covenant was much more true to the original. Unlike The Last Jedi, it was just much more epica overall. Oh, and don't forget about that.
Much more epica. Remember, guys, this is the same thing Ralph did in his piece of shit review as well. Like, if you disagree with me, you're an idiot. Like, that's the argument here. Oh, this was much more epica. That's how people who disagree with me talk. That's the kind of thing I say as a joke. Like when I was talking about Ring, and I did that funny voice, and I was like, "This is how you speak," because like it's just a non-argument. Just my critics are morons. It's not an argument.
Pirates of the Caribbean movie that I can't even remember the name of. What a blast that was! That was true to the original too. Yeah, King Arthur, Legend of the.
But I mean, so your argument is these bad films are not true to the original. Neither is Last Jedi, but that's good. I'm not deliberately misrepresenting him here. This is what this is what I'm getting from it. Like, is there another interpretation? Am I missing something? That's what he's saying.
Sword was so much better than The Last Jedi. Just so much better. Especially how true it was to the story of King Arthur. Oh man, I just wish that The Last Jedi was as truly epic and awesome as Fast and the Furious 8. The true 8th movie in a franchise that is epic. Those guys over at Disney need to take notes from the real filmmakers. Am I right?
So you show a bunch of bad movies and somehow, yeah, somehow that proves some kind of point. What point was he making there? Does anyone in the chat? I'm genuinely asking. Did someone in the chat try to explain what point he was trying to make there? That's the end of the review. Like, that's where you sum everything up. What was his argument?
The right opinion for helping to proofread and edit my script for this.
That was proofread? Wow.
Video.
So I like the right opinion, but I'm not going to ask him to proofread for me. Jesus.
He's a bit better at English than me, and some of my sentence structure is kind of strange sometimes, and he helped me out. So check out his channel in the description. He's a pretty underrated YouTuber. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it didn't make you too angry. Make sure you tell me your
It did. I'll be honest, it did.
I'm sure you were going to do anyway. And my inbox is open and ready for all the death threats.
No one's sending death threats, you fucking liar. What a death threats? Yeah, fucking two-star reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. That's what you showed when you said death threats. You fucking liar. Intellectually dishonest little weed.
Alright, I'll see you in the next.
This is why I say he gives off creepy vibes. He's like some creepy, like soy-infused little Muppet man.
Video. Bye.
Nice fan art though. Yeah, that was worse than I remembered it. Let's 106,000 likes. Again, I'm not saying those people are stupid for agreeing with him. I just don't think he put his arguments across very well, and I'm surprised that enough people agreed with that. Did I comment on this back in the day when it first came out? It usually puts my comment. Obviously, you put your own comments at the top, and it hasn't. So, but yeah, like you either loved it or it's the worst movie ever made. Shows 2-star review. Yeah, that was a bad video, wasn't it? That was rubbish. Oh, I don't know if I can sit. I was gonna watch his comment come back, but I don't think I can sit through another one. That was worse. I think that what's upset me, and again, it's just argument ad populum, I know, but the Joker review got so much more backlash, and I think that was worse. Like, I think he presented his arguments in a far worse way. He strawmanned his opponents just as much, if not more so, than Ralph did in his video. A lot of the time, Ralph's points were stupid, but I understood them. He was just making them by misrepresenting the film. But this one, there were a lot of points where I didn't even understand what he was trying to prove. So I'm just going to say it. I think of the two we've sat and watched this morning, it's the afternoon now, because of course we started at 10:30, but you know it's nearly 1 o'clock now. So bloody hell, what a waste of a morning this has been. No, I've had fun, but that was worse. I think that was definitely worse. But yeah, that was definitely worse than I remember. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get myself another cup of coffee. And I think we've got time for one more video. But again, I can't do anything really long. That 20 minutes is the maximum length I'd like to do another video, really. But what I'd like to do is I'm going to nip out of the room, get another cup of coffee, and I'm going to leave the chat. I was to say leave the chat open. The chat's always open. That's kind of the point. But I'm going to leave you guys to suggest a review for me to tackle. But that was a bad video. So yeah, I'm going to ask two questions of you guys in the chat. I'd like to know which review you thought was worse out of the two we watched, Joker or Last Jedi. I'm throwing my hat in for Last Jedi. I think that was the worst review, but don't let that influence you guys, of course. I know you'll always tell me if you think I'm wrong. But I'm going to go and have I'm going to grab a cup of coffee, bring it back here. So tell me which review you thought was worse, and if there's another review or just another YouTuber you want me to quickly jump and make fun of before I sign out of the streaming at the gym, just let me know. Hello? Hello? Hello, mate.
I think you should do a movie Bob review.
You think Movie Bob? Well, I'll have a look in the chat. I haven't looked at the chat for a little while. I was just getting my coffee.
I was just like flicking around because I'm not doing it at work at the moment, so I was just flicking around and I was like, oh, Jake's on something. What's he talking about? I was like, you just, saw you basically halfway through the Star Wars thing.
Yeah, mate, that's a fucking bad video. Jesus Christ.
I was watching for like that somewhere near about halfway mark. It's like, yeah, I think you should find a Movie Bob review.
All right. Well, I'll have a look what the chat says because it'll probably either be Movie Bob or Nostalgia Critic. There's a couple of Nostalgia Critics I haven't seen, and there's a lot of Movie Bobs I haven't seen.
No, but Movie Bobs are really. You're also going to have to slow it down.
Because I know he talks really fast, but the thing with Movie Bob is on his videos are like fucking Mauler length. They're just like they just never end.
It's just when they do it. His things are usually about 5 to like 12 minutes long. He just talks so fast. You need to actually slow it down. You know, you change the little thing so it's like talking about half speed.
All right.
It's just pure cringe. It's just pure.
I'm gonna jump back on the stream now, mate. Anyway, but
okay.
Nice talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you do. Work your legs. Leg day.
I'm not doing legs. Fuck off. Chest day today. Bye.
See ya.
All right, so we just had a super chat, and you know me, I'm a sucker for the dollar. Nostalgia Critics Event Horizon review. I think that might be a good choice. You see, I like Event Horizon a lot. Now, all films are flawed, as we've discussed, except yours, and certainly there are a lot of problems with Event Horizon, and the production problems, don't excuse the problems with the film. But, having said that, I still remember getting quite annoyed with this video. It's a little over 20 minutes. I love how when you look this up, it's like, you look this up, and it's just people reacting to it, you know what I mean? Oh, the making of, that means there's going to be loads of skits, doesn't it? Let's go. Let's fucking do it, boys. Let's just fucking jump in. Oh god, why is your music production so bad? It always sounds like shit. Like, listen to this absolute fucking butchering of the Goosebumps music. Yeah, Sam Neill's probably my top 5 favourite actors. I just noticed people in the chat talking about Sam Neill. There is one moment where his acting's really bad in this film, but I've always excused it. I've always made excuses for it, for his because it's a dream sequence. But I'm like, is that a valid excuse? Maybe I'm just making excuses because he's one of my favourite actors. Oh god, fucking Doug Walker, man. Why are we doing this to ourselves, lads? Fuck, boys, what are we playing at? That looks gross. The fuck is he about to eat? That's disgusting. I'm sure that's the joke, but like, why would I want to watch someone eat something like that? Oh, I really missed these two. It's really what when I watch a movie review, what I really tune in for is somebody shooting fire out of their ass, like a joke from the fucking pilot episode of South Park, which was in the 90s. Like, it's an old gag. I tune in for that, and I know this is supposed to be nostalgic, I guess. I tune in for that, and this guy's fucking hanger-on friends. Like, who are these two? You know? I mean, are they actors? Like, look at this dead, emotionless face. Look at him. And her. Look at these two. Just awful.
You're right to be afraid.
Loud is funny.
No, but not of him. You see, the critic's ass is actually the gateway to hell.
Oh god, I'd forgotten about all of this. I'd kind of blocked this film out of my memory, just that I gave it a thumbs... this review out of my memory, just that I gave it a thumbs down when it came out. Oh, god.
What? Yeah, see for yourself.
Do you mind? I'm remodeling. This place needs
Does he have any other friends? Like, I know I'm just being mean at this point, but this is the same actor. And by the way, I love that the devil has like a fucking fedora, but this is the same actor as the guy with the flat top in the other scene.
Why is the
So
gateway
like,
to hell in the critic's ass? Well, that's the funny thing about hell. You see, it can appear just about anywhere. The grocery store.
oh, I get it, because if you find it in another dimension, in space, in Event Horizon, and apparently that's bad, right?
Laundromat, and most political fundraisers.
The laundry mat.
But I always thought
Jesus,
hell
learn
was
to
more a
speak.
state of being, the absence, nay, rejection of God, leading to a world devoid of happiness, compassion, or love.
Nope, it's a place in your ass. Haven't you ever seen Event Horizon?
Oh, you mean that piece of...
Wait a minute. Isn't that the movie with the cult following where even the cult following doesn't know why there's a cult following?
No, the cult following is well aware of why there's a cult following, because they like the film. Generally, if people like a film, they know why they like it. I like Event Horizon because it's atmospheric, the acting is good, it's gory, it's funny. It is a fun, culty, space horror movie. That's why I like it, and that's why it's garnered a cult following, because there aren't many films like that, but it caters to a certain demographic that want films like that.
Oh, yes. And according to the director of Mortal Kombat, hell can even exist in space. Really?
You know what? I'm just going to say Mortal Kombat's good as well. So it's just, again, I think the hate for these kind of movies can, not always, but is sometimes rooted in a place of snobbishness.
Yes.
I'm not touching people's faces is really funny.
Design work. I'm putting in a plant.
Event Horizon was one of those films that got a lot of advertising when it came out, but was a critical and box office failure, leading to it disappearing real quickly. But over the years, it's grown a bizarre fan base. Of who, you may ask?
Also, what upsets me about Doug and his criticism of a film like this is, you know, oh man, this film has got a really weird plot. Like, hell can just be anywhere, right? And like, didn't one of your films have a literal plot hole in space that you had to like travel through and then meet yourself, the writer of Nostalgia Critic? And you're gonna make fun of how it works in Event Horizon, really? You know, Doug, if I lived in like you do, a house made of glass, I don't know if I'd throw stones around.
Are those jocks who wanted to think they were into hardcore scary movies for a couple seconds?
Ah yes, Event Horizon, the famous jock movie. I remember when I played football, and we would talk about girls, we would talk about football, we would get drunk sometimes, and we would watch Road Trip, American Pie, what's that fucking movie? Pineapple Express and Event Horizon.
Hey, you remember that movie that was like Star Wars but kind of scary? Event Horizon? Yeah, that was a thing.
Also, that's how athletes talk, because you know, Doug assumes people who play football are stupid.
Okay, I can't say that's all of them, but it's
No.
usually the ones that I've come across. Nevertheless, it's still hard
Anecdotal.
to figure out why this has gotten the attention it has over the years, but maybe...
Because it's a fun, scary, gory, atmospheric, creative horror film that's flawed but has a lot of campy, fun scares in it, and people enjoy it for those reasons. And there are moments where it's a bit silly and you can kind of laugh at it. It really is the definition of what a cult movie is. It's cool.
Maybe this nostalgia ween, we can figure it out. So let's see why hell has such a fucking weird realtor. This is Event Horizon. So after hearing music by that nightclub, you pass by and go, nah, we get some...
Okay, you don't like Orbital, that's fine. But it just seems like a weird criticism.
Background on our futuristic setting. Oh, so we colonized the moon this year, huh? Why am I always the last to...
Oh, film set in the past got, you know, the future wrong. Okay, now do Blade Runner. Can you do the Terminator?
know these things? Christ, this is always what happens when I ride my hoverboard too much. And seeing how this is from the director of Mortal Kombat, I expect to see some pretty bad CGI coming up here. Oh, yeah. Taste that mediocrity. Oh, that's making Shark Boy and Lava Girl look like Lord of the Rings right now. Hold on.
Wasn't Shark Boy and Lava Girl made like 10 fucking years after this film?
We get a pretty cool looking image, which it turns out...
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of really cool looking images, Doug. It's one of the reasons people like the movie.
...is just the dream of our main character, Sam Neill. And naturally, what you just saw plays no part in anything whatsoever.
I don't know if that's quite true.
Sequences and movies that don't tie into anything. They're the equivalent of that girlfriend who tells you all her dreams without relating it to the situation.
Oh my god, it's such a weird dream last night that things were floating and this
Do you
guy
know
was
any other
floating
women?
and I was floating too.
Or have they all taken out harassment cases against your boss?
Put that in your movie!
No.
Come on, it'll be fun.
No.
Lynch's wife says that he puts her dreams in his movies.
All right, fine. It will get you off my back.
Oh my god, I had a dream you would say that.
We then see Neil on a space station, where the cinematography takes the flushing toilet approach.
This is a fucking great shot, right? Like, and he's cut it short at the beginning, so we don't get to fully appreciate it, right? But it actually starts in with the live action plate of Sam Neill walking over to the window and looking out, and then the camera does this thing backwards. It's a really cool shot, and he's like, toilet goes round.
Where the cinematography takes the flushing toilet approach.
Shut up.
Intercepts a ship known as the Lewis and...
Rudy Jazz says, yeah, I'll take a fun, campy, gory horror movie over a slow, boring, artistic movie that every snobby reviewer worships any day. Yeah, I mean, I think your mileage may vary on, like, what's a fun cult movie, what's a snobbish movie. It's all down to opinion. But, I mean, I like a lot of I like a lot of cult stuff. A lot of the movies I like this.
Clark. Yeah, they were gonna call it the Sacagawea, but even in the future, nobody cares about Native Americans. The captain of the ship is played by Lawrence Fishburne, which...
That's a lovely shot as well.
Makes me wonder more and more if this was just a really bad prequel to The Matrix.
We were taken off a well-deserved leave and sent into Neptune space.
So, a serious dramatic actor, who, by the way, is brilliant. I love Lawrence Fishburne. He hasn't done much I've really loved lately, but I think he's a great actor. Great stage actor as well, actor of stage and screen. Is speaking in a serious, commanding tone because he's the captain of a ship. He was also in The Matrix where he played a leader. Not an argument.
3 billion clicks.
How does that explain how the film is bad?
From the nearest outpost.
I'm going to butcher this person's name. Is it Takumi? I don't know. I don't fucking know. I have no money but here. Thank you. And sorry for annihilating your username.
What if I told you you were starring in shit? Now, of course...
It's not shit.
Of course it couldn't rip off The Matrix because it wasn't around yet, but you know what had been around for a
The
while?
chair is great. Can we just appreciate the captain's chair for a moment?
While at this time, Alien, and tell me if you see anything, fucking anything that has the tiniest bit of an alien feel or look.
Yeah, Alien's a really good movie. And okay, so let's take Moon. Let's take a more artistic film that a film critic might appreciate. Let's take Duncan Jones' first film, Moon. I think Moon is great. Stick Moon aesthetically next to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they look very similar. So Moon must suck, right? Because it uses established ideas from another movie, and it pays homage to a film the director really likes. Therefore, it's bad.
Actually, let me make this easier. Tell me if there's anything that does not have an obvious alien feel or look. Even the truckers in space thing.
Also, my man, I don't think you're in any position to call other people on referencing movies. Like, have you watched any of your own films? You literally just dress up as M. Bison in one of them. And another one in your magnum fucking opus, your 3-hour movie, the villain is a character from another movie. It's a character from fucking Battlefield Earth you just bloodily ripped off. And then you're going to sit there with a straight face and make fun of another filmmaker for wearing his influences on his sleeves. After some of the shit you've made, Doug. Really?
alien, it worked because that's what they were. They were coming home from a mining job and then suddenly they were woken up to check out a disturbance. Here, these people were specifically hired to locate an abandoned ship, and yet they act like they have no idea about anything space related.
Use a
Well, I mean, that's kind of half true. What happens in this scene is they, have been taken off leave. So they don't really know what their mission is. They've just been told, hey, we're out here, we're on our way home. Oh, there's a distress thing. We've got a mission. So you're not really being honest, are you, Doug? And we've run into dishonesty a few times this morning. So there's another bit of dishonesty here from Doug. And this part, I know he's going to complain about how, well, these guys don't understand the complexity of space travel. Well, you've just likened them to truckers, mate. And that's not to slag off truckers. I'm sure there are plenty of truckers out there who know things about theoretical physics. But what I'm saying is, it's not in their job description. You don't need to know about theoretical physics, or you don't need to know, or it wouldn't be theoretical in this universe, I suppose, but you wouldn't need to know about astrophysics to be a truck driver. You could be a truck driver with interest in it, but you wouldn't need that. So, with these characters, yes, they work in space, but this is the future. We don't think of them as the type of people who are astronauts today. These are, like you put it, truckers in space. These are blue-collar workers. Some of them are doctors. Some of them aren't.
To focus a narrow beam of gravitons, these in turn fold space-time.
Layman's terms.
Fuck layman's terms. Do you speak English?
And this is obviously a revolutionary idea he's talking about as well. So, yes, it's a person who is a scientist would understand what he's talking about, but this device was invented a few years ago and has only ever been used once and was not made public. So why would these guys, particularly those among them who are not scientists, why would they understand what he's talking about? For what reason?
No, sorry. Allow me to explain using porn.
Piece of paper represents space-time. It folds space so that point A and point B coexist in the same space and time.
Tell me more about this space thing.
See, you can't actually do that.
The law of relativity prohibits faster than light travel.
Yeah, come on, buddy. We're mere astronauts. It's not like we're
They're not astronauts, though, dude. They just work in fucking space. This is a fucking futuristic piece of fiction with, as you've already described them, truckers in space. Truckers are the best one in the world, not astronauts. Again, I'm not insulting the intelligence of truckers. I'm simply stating a fact.
I built it. It creates a dimensional gateway that allows it to jump instantaneously from one point of the universe to another light years away.
How?
Well, it's difficult to... It's all math.
Yeah, what do you think we are, rocket scientists?
No.
Oh, wait, we are.
No, they aren't. They're not rocket scientists, Doug. I don't actually think one among them is a rocket scientist. There's a pilot, a doctor, who's basically like a surgeon. You've got a rescue technician. I don't actually think any of them are rocket scientists. I think the only person who would actually come under the heading of a rocket scientist is the one explaining it.
In fact, there's technically very few scientists on the voyage at all.
Yeah, so why did you just call them all scientists then? If you're acknowledging that you... So you haven't misunderstood. You just are deliberately distorting the information then. So again, this is another fucking I Hate Everything Last Jedi review, another Ralph the Movie Maker Joker review. You're just distorting information for the purposes of jokes. And in the process, telling people not to watch a movie they might like.
Wouldn't it have made more sense to send more of them in? Or anyone who knows what they're fucking supposed to do?
Again, these guys were already out in space on their way home, so they were doing something completely unrelated.
Skipper, I got a question. What the fuck are we doing way out here?
Well, perhaps the good doctor will be kind enough to tell us.
We wanted to keep it a surprise. Now, I know you're all qualified to handle top secret information, but I saw one of you take a selfie with Sophie's birthday cake, and, well, the entire surprise party was just ruined. This calls for another completely pointless scare.
I'm waiting.
There's the bad scream acting. Very famous
I wanted to
moment.
convince you that was a real scream, but then halfway through I was like, fuck it, it's Event Horizon.
You're alright.
Christ, how many fake-out dreams can a guy have? Oh, what a horrible dream. Well, at least I'm awake now. That's it! I'm sticking with reality?
Yeah,
Come
horror
on,
horror
Joseph.
movie uses dream sequences.
When they finally
Horror
get to the
movie is
event
bad for
horizon,
using dream
Fishburne
sequences.
navigates them in with his incredibly silly hanging chair.
Fuck you, dude. I love that chair.
He looks like a rocking old lady. Why does he have that?
Where is it? The scope is lit.
The other people have a ton more buttons to push. Why does he get the jungle gym furniture?
Because he's the captain.
I'm a spaceman.
After connecting safely to this incredibly immature music I'm now putting over it.
The joke that it looks sexual doesn't really work when it's intended to look uncomfortably sexual because of the themes and ideas this film's going to present us with later. That joke doesn't really work here, Doug, because it's supposed to remind you of some kind of like wrong, you know, violent, because they have to like basically break this thing. It's like supposed to be like a rape, basically. I'm not saying whether that's a good choice or bad choice on behalf of the filmmakers, but what I am saying is to then add porn music to it just shows that you think you're being clever when you aren't.
They send in a probe to scope out the area to make sure it's safe for them to, or are they just going themselves?
Place is a deep freeze.
Oh, yeah, deep freeze, huh? Is that why we can still hear the water moving as it floats by? Maybe they mistook it for a room temperature freeze. So, yeah, seeing how Neil is the designer of this ship, you have to wonder what the scientific relevance is of why the fuck it looks like Bowser's castle.
He's insane, and it's implied that he was influenced by evil forces to do it.
No, the doors need teeth, that's very important. I know a reflective tunnel seems pointless, but scientific, I swear.
Why does Sam Neill sound like Keanu Reeves in Dracula in your world? Is that your New Zealand accent, Doug? It's not good.
Don't ask me why everything looks like Marilyn Manson's auto repair. It's space stuff, super technologically advanced space stuff. Do I have to explain with another pin-up poster? Why does nobody scream right in this movie? That sounded more like a dog barking than a woman shouting. But the dimensional black portal hole thingy starts acting funny as one of them takes a closer look. No, don't touch it! You'll be wearing emo haircuts and doing tap dancing in bars for weeks!
Spider-Man 3 bad. Good joke. Great reference to Spider-Man 3 in your review from... How do I get the fuck out of here? In your review from 2015.
He gets sucked in, but they pull him back only to discover things aren't making much sense. I mean, more than usual.
It was liquid, and the whole cords turned south.
It would mean the gateway was open.
Well, then that's it. That's the gateway was open. That's
the
what
gateway couldn't be open. Mr. Cooper's delusional.
What? He would have to believe him. There's no way he could make that up. Hello?
He does. It's all... You've seen the film, right? You understand why Sam Neill behaves this way. Because deep down he fucking knows what's going on. He just won't accept it. Because, you know, there's a part of him that's always wanted this to happen. Because he's crazy. Because his wife killed herself. And, you know, he's been effectively... Again, it's only implied in the film, but it influenced by forces beyond our understanding. And they well, I say it's implied, but they flat out confirm it when he kind of comes back as a monster later on.
What happened here, Doctor?
After seeing a typical Arby's eater, the rest of the crew is realizing they start to see things that shouldn't logically be there.
Mommy?
Peters!
Seriously, did the cast take screaming lessons from Marmaduke?
Peters!
Be with me. Forever.
You know, I just realized ghosts aren't very scary when they have a little bit of attitude on them.
Forever.
And I don't mean forever, like when you promised to rub my feet forever. I mean forever! Of course, as scientific astronauts, they come to one logical conclusion.
What are you telling me, that this ship is alive?
You wanted an answer, and it's the only one I've got.
Wow, that was like your first answer.
Again, though, you're distorting information here, Doug, because I've seen this film a few times. That's not what happens. She goes off to study it for some time and comes back with that. She doesn't just show up like, hey, I think the ship's alive because we've been seeing weird things. It's like, oh, there's all these like life readings everywhere and I can't get a lock on. There's a bunch of, I can't remember exactly everything, but there's a bunch of like evidence that points her to that.
I mean, Star Trek had like 5 episodes where they hallucinated stuff and they always had a logical conclusion for it. But you're like, boom, ship's alive, we gotta sacrifice
That's
the virgin.
not
I'm looking
what
at you,
happens.
Eddie Remain Franco.
That's not
Speaking
what
of
happens,
which,
Doug.
he wakes
You're
up from his
distorting
sleep and
information.
wanders in a daze towards the airlock to kill himself.
All right, you're going to slag off this, which is, I think, one of the most tense and brilliant scenes in the film. And again, I'm saying this as a guy who acknowledges a lot of the film's problems. This is a great fucking sequence.
To be fair, that might be because everybody on the crew apparently insists on calling him Baby Bear.
Oh, Baby Bear, come on.
Okay. Again, you established that earlier in the film. It's his nickname because he's very young. He's like a young, brilliant kid who's, you know, he's not a kid, but like compared to all these other guys, he's like in his early 20s. You know, and these guys are all in like their they're like mid to late 30s. Some of them are like in their 40s. You know, they're adults. I think Sam Neill's probably about 50 in this movie. You know, I'm just going by how everyone looks, how old they look. It's never actually established. But yeah, so they establish earlier on in the movie this guy, that's what they call him.
Hey, baby bear.
Is that really gonna put him in a better mood calling him that? Come on back, Baby Bear!
I told you I hate it when you call me Baby Bear.
Oh.
Again, he never implies that he hates being called Baby Bear, though. He calls, in fact, they call, I can't remember the actress's name now. Is it Kathleen Quinlan? I can't remember her name. BRB. Hey guys, Gemma's here, by the way. So Gemma, I'm just making fun of Nostalgia Critics' video on Event Horizon. It was suggested by the audience.
Oh yeah.
I've spent. It's the afternoon now, but I've spent my morning making fun of bad YouTube reviews. Did Joker from Ralph the Movie Maker and did Last Jedi from I Hate Everything, and now I'm doing this. Now, as I said earlier on in the movie, it's established, you know, that he calls the medical whatever she is, Mama Bear. It's a thing they do. So why would they then put in this? Why would Doug put in this bit? It doesn't make sense.
Right, we'll call you Smoochie Kids! Buttercup? Honey Lemon? I know! Shrinky Balls! You loved it when we called you Shrinky Balls! It's unavoidable.
Yeah, I mean that's how the scene plays out, Doug. Yeah, are you actually going to show anything of that scene, or are you aware that it's actually too tense and great of a fucking scene for you to make fun of? What is this shit? Download video on demand. Oh no, thank you. No, thank you. But yeah, it's a brilliant scene. Oh no, they are actually going to show it.
Externaut wakes up from his daze and realizes what's going on.
Where am I? Hey, open the door.
I can't. The inner door won't open when the outside door's been triggered.
Now, obviously, this is being presented without context, but if you haven't seen this film, try to imagine you're watching the movie. This is sort of halfway through the movie. You've been watching it for quite a while. You've got to know these guys, and this is, you know, something's wrong, and there's this tense moment where this character kind of sort of under a dark influence locks himself in an airlock without a suit, and they can't get him out. It's a very frightening scene.
Mama Bear, open the door.
Jesus, Mama Bear? Baby Bear? How long until they all move into a house tree in the middle of bear country?
Justin just activated the door. It's on a 30-second delay.
Justin! My baby bear won't leave his pedo bear anytime soon!
Yeah, just accuse Lawrence Fishburne's character of diddling kids for a cheap joke. That's really funny.
He won't be pretty, but he should live.
As you'd imagine, a lot of hostility starts to spread through the group.
Justin said something about a dark inside me.
I love how these aren't reviews as well. Like, he's literally just going through the movie from beginning to end. Like, how is this a review? At least with those other guys who made fun of, they just talked about the movie. I mean, Ralph's one could have done with a bit more structure. But yeah, this is just a blow-by-blow of the movie, but occasionally making fun of it. Like, this is more like me making fun of a horror story and reading it from beginning to end, like on the channel. But this is not a review.
Doctor? I don't think it means anything.
I'm walking away now. Do not chase me. Hey, I really said that thinking you wouldn't follow me.
I'd like some answers, Doctor.
But even Fishburne starts to get freaked out at what he's witnessing. As And now it's time for what generic horror cliche will Fishburne say? Let's see, I'm looking for a Mother of God. Mother of God or Lord have mercy? Lord have mercy or we're doomed? Yes, I'm gonna say we're doomed. Let's see, we're doomed. We're doomed. We're doomed. It's not.
God help us.
Oh, God help us.
Yeah, again, so this is the same argument that Ralph presents in his Joker thing when someone is like, someone says the line, something funny, asshole. Like, that's bad dialogue because he's heard people say it in other films. Like, I don't see what's unrealistic about saying God help us when you've had a vision of literal hell.
Man, with such memorable lines like these, who needs effort?
And you know, one of your crew has has just tried to commit suicide by launching himself out of an airlock. I feel that's a fairly reasonable thing for him to say in that situation.
They finally find a video of what happened to the last crew, which leads to
Jesus,
the
can we
Scoopy
even
and
show this
Shaggy
on
method
YouTube?
of confronting the unknown.
We're leaving.
My ship, you can't just leave her?
I will launch attack missiles at the event horizon until I'm satisfied she's vaporized. Fuck this ship.
Again, I refer all rationale of scientific discovery and exploring what the world has never encountered to fuck this ship.
You can't leave.
I mean, this is a lovely shot, you know, it's a great looking picture and everything, and he's just boiling it down to its simplest terms.
She won't let you.
But Neil, quite bizarrely out of nowhere, suddenly decides he's the bad guy.
Quite bizarrely out of nowhere. You've seen the film, Doug. Presumably you watched it more than once as well, in order to get clips for your review. What do you mean out of nowhere?
You just get your gear and get back on the Lewis and Clark, Doctor, or you'll find yourself walking home.
I am home.
I'm quite uncharacteristically deciding I belong here. Anakin Skywalker's turnaround has nothing on me. From here,
Except this isn't
tons
a
of things.
turnaround because he kind of was always like that. It just needed to be on the ship for it to kind of trigger, I suppose. It's difficult to put it into words, but we talked about it earlier.
Go wrong. Neil sabotages everyone. He blows astronauts into space. He pulls people on strings. It all goes to hell. And yes, I guess you can take that literally. But one astronaut seems just mildly annoyed that he's stranded out in the middle of oblivion.
Where the fuck am I going? Why is this shit gonna happen to me?
Man, I had plans tonight. I was gonna...
To be fair, Cooper's missed a lot of the really scary shit because he's been outside fixing the ship. This is just how he deals with things. I agree that the comic relief in the scenes with Cooper is a little bit on the nose and not always funny, but I don't have a huge problem with it.
On Bob's Burgers on Netflix. But it's okay, because he has a rocket pack in order to get him back.
I gotta blow my air tank. I'll blow my air tank.
Yes!
I also can't believe how happy, this is another thing that's stupid, how happy he is to get, he's like, oh, I'm off this piece of debris. I've blown my air tank and I'm likely to die, but hooray!
Here I come, motherfuckers!
You know, can we just have a sign that reminds us that this is supposed to be a scary movie? Good, because it was starting to look like an episode of Homeboys in Outer Space.
Low-key racist, but carry on.
And yes, that was a thing. Don't Google it. To make things worse, Sam Neill has pretty much transformed himself into a video game villain, having clawed out his eyes and revealed that this plot has pretty much gone the same direction as Doom.
I created the event horizon to reach the stars. She tore a hole in our universe, a dimension of pure evil.
Yeah, it's
chop his speech up to make it sound less impactful.
pretty hard to take him seriously when he looks like that. He's kind of like that haunted house attraction you walk by and say, oh, gee, I know you're trying. Just keep hanging in there. You'll scare somebody. As one of the astronauts proves herself totally useless, Rocket Man lands on the window and Neil shoots at him because, like everyone in this movie, he tends to forget exactly what space does. They then come across a ridiculous blood scene that makes The Shining look downright subtle.
It's deliberate homage to The Shining. Like, oh, this is like The Shining, therefore it's bad. I'd say again, we're back to this is like King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, therefore it's bad. It's okay to wear your influences on your sleeves. You fucking done it enough, Doug. And I'm not just talking about your shitty films that just rip off the plots of other movies. How basically, you know, you just take entire scenes from like Star Trek 3 and fucking Battlefield Earth. But I'm also talking about how you are a rip-off of James Rolfe.
How about a nice Hawaiian death?
Things get even worse when literal ghosts from the past show up.
You let me burn!
What?
Just flash it, just flash it. Christ,
Why is that
66
funny?
Halloween special's more scary than this.
Again, contextually, he doesn't play the scene where Lawrence Fishburne explains to Jason Isaacs about, you know, what happened to his friend who he let die, and how that's like his big fear is leaving a man behind and everything. So there's no context. He just shows, oh, it's a ghost monster shooting fire. Yeah, and he has this whole discussion about how fire moves in zero gravity and everything. It's a lovely little scene, and Lawrence Fishburne plays it really well. He's a great actor, but of course he's not going to show that, and therefore this scene has no context.
Oh, come on, I have that punch sound effect!
I agree the sound effects are bad.
But Neil somehow turns himself...
I'm not making excuses for this film. It's symptomatic of the fact that the film was rushed to make a release date it wasn't ready for, but you can't... People go to see a movie, they don't go to see an excuse. So you have to critique the movie as its finished product.
...up into Paper Cut Head and reveals that the ship has, in fact, opened up the gates of hell. Oops.
Did you really think you could destroy this ship? She's been to a place you couldn't possibly imagine.
I know. To hell.
Wow, this sheds much more light on that passage describing hell in the Bible. I always knew that you had left that part in. As images of his friends suffering in hell play over their incredibly disinterested acting.
No, you're not in the court. I watched him die. And you are all coming with me.
They're incredibly disinterested acting, and then shows this close-up of Sam Neill looking like a complete fucking lunatic. Like, on borderline screaming his dialogue. Yeah, totally disinterested.
Yeah. Tell me about hell in a minute. I'm checking my Instagram. They have the only thing that could...
Is this why Doug's such a bad actor? Because to him, in order to look like you care about your scene, you have to have wide open eyes and be screaming all the time. Because that would genuinely, I'm not trying to be funny, that would genuinely explain a lot about his acting style.
Possibly make talks of eternal damnation even scarier. A fist fight. We can make it even scarier if we add the Star Trek music. So hell was surprisingly easy to beat, as Fishburne stays behind with a black hole that apparently fixes itself and the galaxy has a little poop. Our surviving astronauts think they've made it out okay, but did they?
Rescue team, we're safe. Okay, I need it now. We're safe.
I honestly don't know. Is that how the movie ends? I guess so.
Yes, the movie ends without you knowing if they got away or not. It's a horror film. Have you seen a horror film before? They quite often end with a final scare. It's a trope, but there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I don't really like Friday the 13th, but it works all the better for having Jason come out of the lake at the very end. Halloween doesn't need Michael to have disappeared when they look down over the balcony, but it's a nice moment. There's nothing wrong with having a final scare or a little ambiguous weirdness at the end of your horror film, particularly a film that's quite weird like Event Horizon.
You know, there's a difference between leaving a movie open-ended and just throwing in an evil shrug. You could be like, so movie, what did you mean by that ending exactly? I mean, are they still in hell or did they get out? Because either way, there's a lot of plot holes that don't add up.
Again, you're saying like, haha, I don't like it because it's ambiguous, but why is ambiguity inherently bad? Would you rather the film spoon feed you? Because you were complaining earlier that it was for jocks who you identify as being stupid, despite not having evidence to base that claim off of. Apparently athletes are stupid. But yeah, so you think this movie is made for stupid kids in school who play football. So it's bad that it spoon feeds you because that means it's stupid. But it's bad that the ending is ambiguous and difficult for you to understand because you'd rather it spoon feed you? Like, what is your argument?
You just didn't know how to end this, so you rated M. Night Shyamalan's throwaway twist, didn't you? Yeah, okay, let's wrap this up.
M. Night Shyamalan, bad. Beardman, funny.
I'm not entirely sure why this film has a following, because honestly...
Because it's good, it's fun, it's scary, it's gory, the acting's really good. It's a really interesting, weird concept that hadn't been done before. It's got a cult following because it gets a lot of things right for this kind of cult movie. The third act is a complete fucking mess, and sometimes the comic relief doesn't work, which is why it's not a big mainstream film, I think. Also, the premise, I don't think, really carries mainstream potential. But, yeah, it's got a cult following for reasons that should be fucking obvious to you, Doug.
It's a little too boring to even warrant one.
Okay, now, you've watched clips of this film with me and talked to it. Does this film seem boring to you? You said it's too boring to warrant a... Just looking at just the imagery alone, because that's really all you've been able to see, hasn't really shown you much of the acting and stuff. Does the film seem boring?
Everything is just paint by numbers in terms...
Shows this incredibly weird ship design that you've never seen before, which is based on Notre Dame Cathedral. Everything is just paint by numbers. Here's something you've never seen in a movie.
It's a phoned-in space horror. However...
Phoned-in space horror I didn't understand, hence me making sexual jokes about something that is inherently meant to be... To give off the imagery of sexual violence.
However, I don't always hear people talk about the version that we did get, but rather the version that we didn't get. Apparently this movie was really edited down, and there's a rough cut somewhere that's a lot more gory. So gory that I'm just gonna put the time code here in case you're squeamish, because yeah, this gets pretty intense. Remember those quick cuts of the people suffering in hell?
I'm going to skip to that time code, not because I'm a pussy, but because this is on YouTube and I don't want to get in trouble for showing all the violence.
Maybe putting
no,
it back
okay,
in
that's
might
still
have
making it
solved a
worse.
lot. But yeah, how ironic is that a guy who directed a PG-13 Mortal Kombat had to be censored for gore in an R-rated movie? I guess this dude will never get his gore-sploitation masterpiece. So, maybe it's not the film itself, but the film it could have been that fascinates people.
I think there is some truth in what he said there. Again, I think he has distorted a lot of points to make himself seem smarter by misrepresenting the film and by misrepresenting its fans, and I really dislike that about a lot of YouTube critics. But I think he's right that a lot of people are fascinated by the film it could have been, and I'm one of those people, and I often talk about how I wish... When I talk about Event Horizon, which isn't very often, but when I bring this film up and we're talking about cult films, and I'll say that's a movie that needed some room to breathe and needed to be allowed to be released when it was ready. So I think that's true, but it doesn't mean I hate the final product.
I'm not gonna act like I have the answer why, but at least if you find the flick as dull as I do, there's at least a more interesting making-of story that can go along with it. I guess one of those is liable to get your attention, but for me, I'd much rather watch what this creepy-ass imagery was going to be than the snooze fest it became.
Event Horizon, the snooze fest, apparently. The film he's laughed at several times. I don't laugh at films I find boring.
And speaking of hell, you thinking of relocating anytime soon?
Oh, of course, the storylines for the review. I'd forgotten about this. My favourite thing about Nostalgia Critic.
I just can't go without leaving you with some form of suffering.
You put hell up my ass. How much more suffering can you get than that?
Well, I have been scouting under William Shatner's toupee. All right, I'll head out then.
Thank God. I mean, you. Whatever. Hey, Tamara. Can you look up my ass to see if Hell is still there?
I'm gonna go be a backup singer for Brental Floss.
Just do it!
There's nothing in there but a book.
Woohoo!
By Stephen King.
Oh!
Clown Man, bad. Right, so that was written by two people. Yeah, so that was Nostalgia Critic's review of Event Horizon. Thank you very much to the chap who super chatted that I should watch that video. I've had a lot of fun making fun of these movies. I know I've gotten cross a couple of times, but it's been a genuinely fun experience. But yeah, really just fucking dreadful reviews. 3 dreadful reviews, dreadful for different reasons, although there were some common themes. Particularly with I Hate Everything and with Ralph. Those were 2 guys that consistently misrepresented the opposition to their point of view, to people who disagree with them. They consistently misrepresented them. One thing that I think Doug and Ralph both did was also misrepresent the film and take ideas and recontextualize them to make a point instead of actually presenting them as they are. Which again is, yeah, it's not clever. Yeah, it's not a clever way to make a video, and it doesn't really prove anything other than it just proves your own dishonesty. And I think these were 3 very dishonest people whose videos we've watched just now, which is not something I enjoy, really. I mean, it's enjoy making fun of it with you guys, but I'm a little saddened that all these guys are so successful. I mean, at least with Ralph, his other content's usually quite good, and the video was suitably disliked. But with the I Hate Everything video and this one, it's disappointing how the respective fan bases are so, forgiving one of this garbage, but also that they listen to the points that are made by Doug and by Alex, and they all listen to that and say, yeah, I'm not going to watch that. Or I'll go and watch that. Particularly with this one, putting them off a film they might enjoy. And I think that's a shame. So I'm going to say bye-bye. Gemma's not feeling 100%, so I'm going to probably just look after her for a bit, and then I'm going to squeeze in some gym time. But I want to thank you all for coming. It's been a fun little morning. Obviously, I was originally planning on going to work. This was more fun, although I do like my job. This was more fun. So I hope I'll see you guys on the next one of these. We probably could do some more because there's a ton of bad internet reviews out there. So I don't see any harm in doing another one. But thanks ever so much for coming. If you've just arrived, I do apologise you have missed the stream. But I'm going to leave it up for a little while so you'll get a chance to check out some of the commentary. Because this plays a lot like a video. There's not as much stuff that only works live. So hopefully you'll get something out of it. I'll see you next time anyway, eating the pudding.